Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 589th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I'm the Clown Prince of Eggnog, Trask Snail. I'm joined by
Dylan Moss. That's
Dylan
me.
Moss. Yes, it's a good old duo newscast. I don't think this hasn't happened since we haven't done Weekly Geek or something, because it was us four, and Taylor's like, because Taylor's going to town, I think Friday. Yeah, he leaves. So actually, no, I'm packing, so I can't do that. Okay, fine. Kirkland was the first one to respond. He's like, oh yeah, I'm all down. Let's do it. And then schoolwork and stuff like that, But that's fine. We don't need them really. They have nothing to add to Death Stranding. They got nothing.
That might be a bit much.
That's
I
always
like to
my
think we're
test.
pretty flexible here. If
Yes.
one or two guys drop out, there will still be two of us here till the end of time.
I think we're kind of the way there's been many iterations, but I feel like especially after retroing now, I feel like we're much like the X-Men team in the X-Men 97,
Yeah.
92.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. We're like Rogue will just be gone for 6 episodes in a row.
Right? yeah. Or there's also like a big team up episode, and it's like a big review or something like that. Or like the video game awards, like, oh, we're all come together, but then something like happens and they get taken out somewhere. So
It is a lot, like because I feel like even in X-Men, you'll have. Like, I feel like there was a time where me and you were doing tons of duo cast reviews and news. We still like do side quest stuff, but even that's not super often. But yeah, I feel like there's kind of the ebbs and flows of GeekVerse podcast over 8 years now. That kind of happens.
Oh, that does happen. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. But it's a little impromptu newscast because the next few weeks it's a litigation. That doesn't make litigation is like in a law thing. I don't know what I'm all conjunct.
There is a law related thing in our topics tonight, so maybe that's
there is. Unfortunately, there is. Yeah,
litigation going.
Yeah, litigation. That's what I said, but that doesn't even work for what I was saying and stuff like that. So, what was I gonna say? So we're doing that because the next week there'll be some stuff because I know you got a side quest pre-recorded.
Yep.
And then I'll probably do a Trash Told You on the Aquaman box office because I'm very curious about that because it's not looking too hot. So I'm always excited.
That's what I've
to have
seen in the Discord. Yeah, apparently everyone's sharing pictures of their theaters, and there's no one in those seats.
Yeah, well, Kirkland had a good joke today. He bought his ticket, and he's like, "Oh, it's doubled since I last got it," and because there was only 2 tickets bought, so there's 2. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's not wrong. I'll take a look, but I think we're rocking like a full 6 people in the first showing of the night, like tomorrow.
That is crazy. For some reason I didn't expect it to blow up like the first one did, $1 billion movie, but yeah. That's quite a severe. It's like Captain Marvel, right? From $1 billion movie to. I don't know. How much did that movie make? Like $300 or something?
The people that have bought their tickets, they're 2 rows behind us, they're gone. So now
they sold the ticket.
Right now it's just, that's me, Kirkland Taylor right there. Because they
got rid of their ticket. That's hilarious. Yeah. You don't see that very often.
Wow. I hope that'd be a great experience to have like just us 3 watching Aquaman because I'm expecting an all right time, but yeah, no, and it's funny because like I know we'll talk probably more about this in the new year when we do our draft and stuff, but yeah, it's a private screening. Oh, Aspop's got the right word. A litany is a good job. You know?
What is the definition of a litany? Is it just like a lot?
I think several things, maybe something like that.
A series of petitions for use in church services.
Okay, not that one.
A tedious recital, a repetitive series, so repetition. It works, but I feel like it's taking on a new meaning in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I'm not the only one that's heard that, but I've definitely adopted that. But no, it's crazy because we can't just say because we were talking about on the Aquaman predictions where the domestic made 300 million, but the international was 800 million. So international really carried that market. Right, but even in China, it opened up there yesterday, and it had a $5 million opening, but the first one had a $23 million. So it's not like, a North American thing. It's just like everywhere where it's just things change between like COVID in general just changed everything, like life and rules and stuff like that. We don't have this at the top. Hunger Iggy says, what are your thoughts on WBD buying Paramount? I think we'll talk about that when it gets more further along because right now it's just the talks, but that's how the Microsoft thing happened, the Disney Fox thing happened, and Warner Brother last time they got bought by Discovery. So I think it is in the talks. I'm always in the camp of I'm not always for just a bunch of big studios. Like I know there's always that joke that like Google, Microsoft, and Apple will own everything one day, and I feel like the more movie studios we lose, that happens, and we just also lose like variety. You know, like, I think that's why we cheer for like the A24s and the Neons, like making Parasite. Like that's my worry is the more there is, or I guess the less studio options there are, just the less variety we could get. And that's
Paramount's giving me the curse. So as far as I'm concerned, they're crushing it, and they don't need to be bought.
What DC character would you cast Nathan Fielder as?
Oh shit! I wish I
Emily's
had
shaking her head.
I wish I had a deeper knowledge of DC characters in this moment.
What Justice League character? Actually, you know what? I won't steal.
I want to say
villain,
villain, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It has to be Joker, right?
Oh, Joker. Nah, I feel like it has to be some. Who's a character who's just like very socially, like a social pariah? Because I mean, I guess Joker is sort of that.
Social pariah. I was thinking more of the awkward one. You haven't seen him yet. I hope you get to see him at some point. There's a Batman villain named the Ventriloquist, and he has a puppet named Scarface. And the whole thing is that he pretends that the puppet's alive, but he's really and he's a really shy, awkward guy. But he pretends the puppet is alive, and he's a mob boss. So we could get Nathan doing the voice of the puppet, and he can play like he can play like the shy, like awkward guy. So I feel like that's two roles with him because he's very versatile. So
because you mentioned him, and I looked up this character. I'm like, wow, Nathan Fielder looks absolutely nothing like
yes, of course,
the ventriloquist guy. But
no,
I could see him playing the puppet.
Yeah, we can take that out, right? Like that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We changed look and everything. So no, we'll talk about it in the new year when we rate our top shows. But the curse has got me on. I'm on Dylan's Nathan Fielder bandwagon. Dylan always get recommending him, and I just needed that one thing to get me in, and that's Emma Stone. She got me in, and now I watched all Nathan for you, and oh man, I've caught up last episode, new episode more. I think there should be a new episode tomorrow. I'm worried with the Christmas break if they're going to skip. Are they for sure?
Well,
sometimes shows skip a week with the Christmas stuff, but I hope not.
That's true. I'm hoping it's too early for that to be the issue, but also like, do you know how many episodes it is?
I think it's 10. It's a full 10, which
10?
I think
wow,
is
we
funny.
We still have a lot to go then.
Yeah, which is funny because they kept talking about like they got a 10 series order, so I feel like there's kind of like some sort of fourth wall thing going on there, with their show.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's
now
smart.
Queen. What is it? Green Queen now.
That tagline. Yeah, the last episode was so good.
It's like milestones for people not watching it. Go watch The Curse. It's fantastic. But just this, I love they're doing this whole dynamic now where it's her and the other guy, just making him just look like a complete idiot.
Dude, Benny Safdie is so fucking good in that show.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. And his look with his hair and all the rings, he just he feels like Jesus from The Big Lebowski. He has kind of that energy to him. It's great.
Well, and the thing about that, and then he was an Oppenheimer this year, like two completely different roles and stuff. But oh no, I can't remember the full conversation, but I think he was talking to someone about smoking. He's like, yeah, my wife died, and like, oh, from smoking? No, driving. Like he was like he was not. The character wasn't wanting the person to ask, and then there's just such good moments because like I was somebody like I liked the first 2 episodes, but I just felt like they're like a little too long, and I was like, okay, what's the hook? And now we're in there. Man, and Nathan, especially after watching Nathan for you, I'm kind of surprised how much range the guy has, like in the acting sphere. Like, they're two very different stuff. And like last week, it's a minor spoiler again, but when he got mad at that lady when she said, "You got to check her," and he's like, "Watch your bitch mouth, touch yours." They don't want the house anymore. Yeah, it's everyone go watch it. It's a really good show.
He's perfect as a role in that character of just like everyone kind of beating up on him, being mean to him. He just takes it, and he's like hateable, but you're like rooting for him at the same time. Yeah, it's good.
I even showed Emily because sometimes she thinks the Nathan for You shenanigans are a bit much, but like the point turning the show was that comedy room one when they go around and then he does that like that's something clicked for me. Where it was like, okay, I'm like I was in, but like I'm way more in, and that just like. He does that so well, that very awkward making fun of himself sort of deal. But
all right, so your rehearsal's next, I assume. Maybe even over the Christmas break, perhaps. It's only 6 episodes, I think, one season. It's very easy watching that.
It'll probably be when I get back because then I'll have the house alone because like Emily kind of likes it, but it's not exactly her bag, and then kids around. So I think January is when the rehearsal for sure I'll be in there. So. Yeah, no review from us here. The Percy Jackson show dropped today, yesterday. I haven't heard it yet, but are hearing great things. I've heard my timeline's been mixed. The critics wise, people are saying great things, but my timeline's mixed as far as people I know. But we talked about it a few weeks ago. We don't. We're not in the Percy Jackson life. I have no affiliation with it. So
sorry, S-Bubs. Maybe someday. Yeah.
What character would you like to see Jonathan Majors sign DCU? I think we'll talk about that, but I don't think that's going to be happening at any point at any time soon. You know,
Yeah, I don't know about that comment. That's something
yeah,
else.
yeah, no, I don't. I like that's a big comeback story, I guess. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. We're going to talk about some news because, as I was trying to say, we went on a whole tangent. Next week there will be Trash Told You and Side Quest, but that's pretty much it. And then the week after, that's when we'll be getting into 2020-24 video game preview and movie preview. We did last year this show, so lots of them are going to be more like evergreen stuff. I'm sure if there's like a massive breaking thing, like I don't know, Henry Cavill gets cast as Link, like we'll cover it. But most of the stuff it's mostly just gonna be some catch up. The adult version, of course, not the child version. Dylan, you know, he's always gonna cast and stuff. You know,
right? Who would be his young Link if they do like Ocarina of Time thing where there's time travel?
David Cornsweet, the new Superman, just get like the new guy.
I don't know what he looks like, but
he looks like
if he's cast as Superman, then
yeah, they look pretty similar.
Yeah.
Or Tom Holland, the easy go to, you know.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, which
that could happen, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, go Side Quest Game of the Years. Mine, Kirkland Taylor's are out there now, so check that out. There is a Better Watch Out Christmas retrospective, and there is a Sucker Punch Zack Snyder retrospective. Yeah, me and Kirkland will be reviewing that on Friday, so that'll be tons of fun. And I guess there's already the trailer dropping for part 2 tomorrow, which is very odd because the first part's not even out, so they're dropping the trailer for part 2. So I feel like I can't watch that.
I don't think you said Rebel Moon, by the way, but you're talking about
Rebel Moon. There you go. Yeah, yeah. How about this? Don't DH Henry Cavill on a kid body like Chris Evans and Cap.
I mean, they didn't get away with fucking CGI and a mustache off the guy.
That's
so
true.
I don't think they could get around with de-aging him. I think that if the mustache is like the easiest of CGI, I would imagine. Yeah. So I don't think that's a good idea.
So head down below, find everything you need to know. That's where we all are. Links, Patreon. Very much appreciate if you support us there. Get episodes ad-free, early exclusive. Other than one, you can get the rest of season 4 and 5 for X-Men. The next episode will be recording soon. Planet of the Apes is kicking off. There's a couple episodes there. So yeah, if you want more content, do that. In a couple of weeks, we'll probably be putting out our surveys, so we'd like to hear from you then. Surveys. But yeah, so let's get into it. We're not going to get into like the bulk of this. We're going to get into more of the side stuff, but we've talked about it a few times, so we never made a main topic, but I did this week because obviously it's like a game changer sort of thing. So Jonathan Majors, we don't need to go over all the nooks and crannies, everything. You know, you can go search and what there is and what they're not, and of course, as usual, like the Depp and Amber Heard thing, people would divide one way, this, that. But either way, it doesn't matter because there's 4 counts. The guy was found guilty on 2, and that's Marvel's son to be like, okay, we got to hit the eject button. Let's get out of here. And it was very quick. It was the the thing went down, and then the next hour, because I was like, oh, I think they'll wait like a little bit, but no, it was very fast. But okay, we're gonna get rid of that. So
question, well, quickly on that, because I'm not a expert on litigation as you are, but with how quickly it is, like, is that something that they would have prior knowledge to, or like behind the curtains knowledge of, or was it really just like they had done their meetings and the moment that verdict dropped, if it was guilty, they would immediately drop the statement at that point?
I don't think they'd know for sure because you never know which way a jury goes. But I think you'd maybe get like a little bit of a heads up of like, hey, it's not going his way. You know, like I think I feel like those bigger cases, a lot of people know beforehand what's gonna go down. So I feel like but either way, they probably just had a meeting of if it's gonna be this, we're gonna go this way, and if it's not, we'll go this way, and that's what it was. And I do like. It's a weird topic to talk about. I do get why they waited because we've talked about this like ad nauseum of how with Gunn they pulled that trigger really fast, right? And then obviously they regretted it, and now like the guys on the other side, of course, he finished Guardians. So like I get this time why. I know some people are like, why didn't they do it right away? Like I get the idea of okay, we did this once, let's wait. But I think now it's like. Well, at the end of the day, it is difficult because there's people that do have bad past, but you know that's what happens when they're in the past. When it's something currently happening and it is still like a family studio, you're not going to have that as.
And it was different when this one first started because there was like the first posts hitting the news feed, and then there was a bunch of stuff of like whoever the accuser was like, oh, never mind, this is nothing or something. So and then eventually I turned out of the news, so I wasn't paying attention to the day-to-day or anything. But I think this one was maybe a little less like. Certain from day one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even then, like technically, if you look at it, he was like guilty on 50% of the stuff, right? Because then there's the two other counts that they said he was not guilty for. So that's where it's like a very messy situation where it's not a clear cut. But that's why, I'm sure there's great lawyer podcasts out there about litigation. You can listen to that. We get to talk about like the nerdy geeky stuff, and we always win about like, hey, what's going to happen? So one thing, Kirkland's lost all his points, so take those away. Two, so now there's been a thing that we kind of thought this, but now once this happened, the scoopers get out there and everyone's saying that they, according to them, and just scuttlebutt going around, is that Marvel at this current time don't really know what they're going to do. Right now, Avengers is being referred to as just Avengers 5 now. It's not Kang Dynasty. It's internally referred, which could go back, and that's what I was going to ask you, because I think we talked about this a little bit, but now that it's official, what do you think the best course of action is? Because like, is it just good to, go get an actor, it's a character, put them in there, but at the same time, like, does the word Kang, like I think people brought up, like, oh, just that character name brings up some stuff that, it's tied to that character. I'm sure there's somebody in there that would want, or would you think that it's best for them to pivot? And do you even have are you like a sell me on this, or do you have a certain path you think that's for you, for Mr. Must you want to see? Like, are you happy if you never see Kang again or see Kang for a while?
Yeah, I've really gone back and forth on this, because I mean, this has been going on for months at this point, where we've talked about the possibility, and I feel like I was always on team that they would still make Kang happen with or without Majors. They would recast him. It's the easiest recast of all time because of the character's origins. Maybe finding an actor of that caliber who can fill those shoes is difficult, but in terms of the character itself, it works. But I think the more and more we've talked about this, the more and more it's changed. And even just seeing the state of these projects that have come out this year, I feel like it's time to pivot and just drop Kang Dynasty as the title of that, which is already kind of the internal talks, and do another direction. I think no matter what they do, they can figure out another character who makes some multiversal thing happen, so we can still get to Secret Wars and whatnot. There's so many characters who could do that stuff. And then also just with where we left off, well, first of all, with where we left off from Ant-Man, but also the quality of that movie and how much fanfare it doesn't have. Yeah. And then with, now after seeing Loki too, like that's another big thing of what changes my opinion on this is you can really just drop that character there, and that's like a full character arc, and you can move on. And obviously that wasn't always the plan, but I just feel like they've set themselves up in a way unintentionally, I have to assume, because they did Loki before all this stuff happened. Like they're really set up to pivot, like I would say pretty easily at this point. I mean, I think it would be different if Loki were 2 movies or a movie, and it was huge. It was a big $1 billion movie, and you're setting up this character here. But it was like, no, Ant-Man was the movie that had the character, and then it was like the TV show that furthered that character. So I think if that was even swapped, Ant-Man was the TV show and bombed, which obviously wouldn't work the same way. That would be maybe a different story. But I think with the way the dice have landed, I think this is a easy pivot, and then you just have so many options right now. You X-Men stuff, Fantastic Four, other characters that I don't know too much about. Yeah. There's so many directions you can go. So I just feel like that's the easier, better, safer thing to do at this point.
Yeah, it's tough for me because also Cryptic Clue says, Dylan, I love your hat. Like, I guess he just thinks yours enhanced superior to mine, eh?
I feel like mine's maybe a bit fluffier, but
I didn't.
They're pretty similar. So
Emily bought this not knowing this was as long, so I did not want one as long, but I plan on getting another one. So it's funny that I feel like I'm on the same trajectory with you here, where I was always, you got to recast. And I feel like even on the day of, I'm like, man, if they don't recast, I'm disappointed, and I still will be disappointed to a sense, because I still think Kang the character has potential. I think there's things they could do, and I think it is odd for them because even if they're changing stuff, that was supposed to be their big bad, right? That was supposed to lead it all. And that's where I went, okay, there's so much potential. But I do feel like as time goes on, even just the mere days, I'm like, for some reason, I don't know if it is just best to, like, is it worth it? And I wonder if it's best to even come back to Kang, but at a different time, like kind of the same way we think they're going to do T'Challa, right? Where you will have an adult playing T'Challa again. I don't mean T'Challa Jr. I mean, like, you'll have a full-on Black Panther, but it'll be like a different version or a different universe where it's like, oh, it's not as bad because this is, a new adaptation of the character. It's not the one that was based with Chadwick Boseman, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe you could do that, but years later you bring him back. It's just, and I guess it's just purely the comic book family that's just disappointing if it's just like Ant-Man and Loki. You know, it was such a small mini run, and as we've said before, like at least I've been saying, if it was that small mini run, I at least wish they did like a mini Avengers movie like they did. I shouldn't even say mini, but now when we comparative, there's the Avengers movies and then there's the event movie, right? And I wish that instead of Ant-Man, we got an Avengers movie where they just beat Kang and that was it. Like at least like something would have happened with him. But I think, you know, you have the box office of Quantumania and now there's some stuff tied to that character. Like to me, this is like what I think they do. And I think they will look at it as like a potential pivot. I don't even know if it's like going away from that character completely, but I agree with you where even Loki, when they go like, oh yeah, the 616, they took care of it. I feel like that's almost just a way of saying, yeah, like the Kangs were taken care of. Sure, you have that Council of Kangs, but the same way, like, remember we in Guardians of the Galaxy, we had Xandar and we had John C. Reilly and Glenn Close, and then in Infinity War, they just told us that Thanos like wiped that planet off the map and he had the stone. I think you can do the same thing with that council. If like there was a threat and it was just taken off screen, even if that is a Kang. I don't know. Also, if they do like if they get cheeky and use a character that is like a Kang variant, but they don't call them Kang. You know, like there's a character called the Beyonder, which lots of people thought that might be a Kang variant in the MCU. So I could see them even doing that because I know people
typically that's not normally a Kang variant though.
No, but that's where people have said like you could fashion some of that into that sort of character. So I think for me, I guess just the worry is, and I guess it all depends on what they're planning to do now. I know the natural like break glass reaction is Doom. I just don't want Doom if it's the idea that we've talked about, that if there's some sort of reset, it's like I want that man saved. You know, I want that to be a big buildup, and I think if he's just like the bandage, that's just going to cause more problems because then you went through Kang, and then you already not went through Doom. He can still be big because technically Thanos was only in Guardians and then Infinity War Endgame, right? So it's like and Thanos felt like such a big deal. So you still could do that. I just want it to feel the same way when they bought Fox, and Feige was like, well, we're not bringing the X-Men in right now because we want to stick to our plan. We don't want to rush it. So that's my only like reflex when people say, oh, it has to be Doom. That's cool, but I don't want them to kind of waste him too. Not waste, but you know what I mean? Like that's two big bads down in one phase, you know?
Yeah. What if the pivot is Loki again? You bring
As
Loki
the
back
villain?
in. Yeah, like this new and improved, changed Loki. As like that. I'm talking strictly from like that Band-Aid perspective you're mentioning, because I also don't want Doctor Doom or I don't know any villain really just like, oh yeah, this is clearly our plan B in the way that we've seen other movies kind of fail with that before. But I don't know, does that make any sense in terms of the multiverse-ness of it? Now, I don't know, maybe it undoes some of the character development you get with Loki in terms of this turn to the good side or something, but there could be some way to spin that up. Or he could maybe he doesn't, I don't know, I'm trying to think. I guess you'd probably want some other villain in there too alongside him, but
I think you could do it in like maybe like a Civil War sort of way, because I don't think you can make him a straight up villain or bad guy, because I think he's progressed so well, and I think that some people view him as like their favorite thing of these like post Endgame, right? So I think if they make him a villain, you risk like some people like myself and other people have with Scarlet Witch in Multiverse of Madness, where it hurts it a little. So I feel like you could try and do maybe a Civil War where it's like he is the opposing figure, but he is still like doing it for the right reasons. Kind of like, I guess that was Thanos, right? In his mind, he was doing it for the right reasons. And then in Endgame, he's just like, nah, I'm just going to destroy it.
I just feel like that one is kind of like, okay, it's a known variable. You have a well-cast actor in that role. It feels like something that's easier, quicker, maybe even not easier, but quicker to get off the ground if you pivot that direction. Story-wise, I don't know what you do. But at the end of the day, if you have Loki as like some big villain, you get a bunch of other cool favorite characters in there. Are people really going to care that much? Like, they'll still go see that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. They'll still go. And I think it's just like, as bad as it sounds, I think with the multiverse concept, if it is like the Jackman and the Spider-Man together and everything like that, I think you just got to find a somewhat decent villain. I think they were obviously looking for their next Thanos, right? Another big Avengers, but also a villain that people were like, oh, this is a great performance and a great role, and they wanted that, but I'm not sure. And I've always said before that I think Galactus is kind of a maybe not a good idea, but maybe it is now. It's just like a one and because like to me, I've always said like he's just a big guy that eats planets. There's not much you can do with him, so maybe that's what you do. Even though I don't I don't love the idea of all these multiverse heroes we've loved in the past just returning to fight some big CGI thing. I think there was
Yeah.
something great of seeing like a Toby and a Jackman act against an actor like Majors, right? Like that back and forth that like Downey and Brolin had and stuff. So I don't know. So that's why I guess the other thing is too, we are in the moment, and I feel like it's the same thing like James Gunn, where that happened, and then as time went on, it wasn't as bad. And the good thing is, because Mike says like the tricky thing is how do you pivot fast enough to have a villain for the end of the multiverse saga that isn't Kang, which we're kind of talking about. But the good thing is like you have Deadpool next year, and then the year after is Thunderbolts, Cap, Blade, and Fantastic Four. Other than Fantastic Four, I don't think those other three projects are multiverse stuff. I think they're just like character based. So, really, by time when you get to 2026, the idea of someone else playing Kang or Kang being around might not feel as bad, you know? Because I think like, in the moment we're like, oh, this is like, storyline stuff hasn't gone great. Quantumania didn't go great. We have the major stuff, but maybe in a year and a half when they announce, hey, we've cast Kang, it'll feel a little different. So like, I think if I'm leaning away, I still want them to try. And I hope that's the route they go of do a recast, see what you can do. I still think my suggestion is to have fun with it where I think every version of Kang, it should be like Doctor Who from now on, that it's an actor every time. I don't think it should be one guy or girl. I think it'd be really fun of Kang's in 5 projects and we got these 5 actors and we're going to have a good time. Because it just, I think there's some fun versatility. Plus then you're not putting all your eggs in one basket anymore,
even,
you know?
like thematically in terms of the multiverse saga stuff, like what did we really have for that? Like obviously Loki's there. You have Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange doesn't really feel like it's leading towards something. It just feels like its own.
I guess that end credit,
movie.
right? When it's like incursions are happening and that's like supposed to set up these worlds colliding. The Marvels is like a multiverse movie in like the last minute, you know? All of them are all in the last minute. They're not really, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, and even if you think back to like the Infinity Saga, it's not like every single movie had like a stone as a huge plot point. It's almost like they kind of tied that stuff together after the fact, you know, to some extent.
Some of they did. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, yeah, you have Ant-Man, but I just feel like that's a throwaway, you know, because of Majors, because of how poorly that movie did, how bad it was. You just forget it exists. You hit the delete button on that one if you can.
That one's going to be like the new Incredible Hulk, the same way that a whole generation forgot about that movie. That's going to be Quantumania. Between the box office, the reception, and Majors, it's just going to be this movie that never gets talked about. It's not going to be in like their Marvel Studios like opening. I don't think if like how we talked about in Endgame, how they went back to Dark World, I don't think they go back to like the Quantumania movie. You know, like it literally is just like it's like a dead project. You know, it's just out there, and that's crazy that like it's almost been a full year, but it's crazy. It's this calendar year that came out. It feels so long ago, but that was our first 2023 movie, right? So
yeah, no, I feel like you really just. I mean, I guess we still have a few characters from that, but really the only new character would be like Cassie, if you consider that a new character or whatever, Stinger or Stature, whatever her name is.
Stature and Stinger, yeah, the double, Stinger and Stature, yeah. They shouldn't go by them both at the same time, but you know.
Stature's the one in Marvel Snap. That's the one I'm familiar with, but I always forget who Stinger is.
I think they're going with Stature, yeah. Okay. But yeah, and you know it's funny in retrospect, we always said, oh, it was lame how they ended, that he didn't get stuck there with Kang and all this jazz. Now in retrospect, it's good that the movie just ends with Paul Rudd just winning and that Kang getting sucked away, right? Because then if that's like another like loose end you don't really have to tie up. So yeah, we'll see. So like in your core, you know, you got what was a gun to your head, and what was you got to see a movie with it? What was our old school expression?
Fuck. Definitely a gun.
Oh, and you won the lottery if you won the lottery,
and with a gun to your head. Yeah.
What do you think they do? Like your final, you know, recast or replace. Yeah, recast or replace. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think we forget. That Kang ever happened.
Okay.
Because even then, like I don't know, in Loki, it's like he wasn't even called that, you know. So I feel like it's kind of easy to move past it. And then the Kang in like Quantumania, which is already forgotten, is as you just mentioned, like dead-ish. So yeah, I think you forget that's the gun to my head lottery ticket. You forget.
What if, I mean, I say recast, but what if they did something where they cast someone as a villain and they didn't reveal they were Kang until that said movie. Like there was no buildup of saying, "Oh, we've cast Denzel Washington as Kang." Like, what if it was just we've cast Denzel Washington, he's gonna be a villain in Avengers, and in that movie you reveal that it's Kang. And again, you don't even have to make. You don't even have to say. He can just quickly mention like he's a variant of Kang, this and that. Like you don't even have to say because it's He Who Remains, Victor Timely. Like you could have a villain. Like what if it was Beyond It? Let's say.
But here's the thing: who gets excited about that at this point? Do you pop off in the theater for that?
Well, no, but I guess it helps that continuity maybe of when they set up Kang, and the whole time we'd be like, oh, I guess they abandoned it, but then it comes up like, oh no, this secretly, like what if they cast the Beyonder, but then they reveal like actually I was a variant of Kang, I took out all those other Kangs.
I just think who cares? Who cares about that anymore? I don't know. I feel like Phase 4 has been such a mess at this point. Oh yeah, I don't even know where we are at this point.
Yeah, we're 5 now. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Secret Invasion.
See, and I talk about this stuff every single week. Like I just think who cares? I just think it's you have this many problems. You have these messy phases. Like stop trying to make fetch happen. You know, just move on.
I'll play devil's advocate and say they recast. Okay. I say they wait a long
big,
time. Big, huge
actor, Denzel style, like caliber. Do you think?
It's tough because there's probably enough people in Hollywood that might go and side with him and feel like he's innocent or they were, he wasn't guilty.
You think so?
Yeah, because I think they're like, not to get into like race politics, but there's a lot of, because I've seen this a lot talked about in the articles about it, where the idea that it is a white woman that did the charges on him. There is a history of lots of those cases being proven like it's a tough. I think the dynamics of it are very tricky, and I think there's a lot of actors that even if they didn't think he was not guilty, they just would not want to touch it. So I think it's tough. That sure you can go get like some no name that's a great actor. I'm sure there's somebody that would want to like become Kang, get a role, but I feel like if they come out of the gate and say we're doing Kang again, it has to be somebody of note. I think it has to be, because I think if you get a no name, you go my route of you don't say it's Kang yet, and you kind of build up to that, and it's kind of like a Voldemort where he's around, but you just keep hearing about Kang or whatever, the Beyonder, and then boom, this guy's Kang. Where if it's a recast right away, they wait a couple of years and they get big time actor that we love and has a very clean track record and never done any, like, nicest guy in the world.
Feige just does it himself. He's like, I can't trust anyone except for myself. Get me in there. Do you think that because obviously we have the post-credit scene in Quantumania where there's kind of these 3 main Kang variants that are introduced, and then there's like a million other aliens and things in the background. But do you think we actually see like Kang the Conqueror from Quantumania, Victor Timely, or the He Who Remains, like those specific variants? Because I think the recast element is a lot easier if you factor in that, like, okay, all these versions that you saw on screen before aren't actually coming back. It's not someone playing that version of the character, so you can. It's not weird if even like how differently he acted as Timely versus He Who Remains and the cadence of his voice and whatnot. So, yeah.
No, never ever. I don't think, because He Who Remains
That makes it easier than for a recast. So I think that puts some more water in that bucket.
Because they all were kind of defeated, right? Like Kang Conqueror got sucked up, He Who Remains was killed, and then Victor Timely just ended up being like a kid again, and we're gonna see if that cycle restarts where he gets the book and everything, right? So they're all kind of squared away. So that's where I think like the Council of Kangs would get the Xandar treatment of, oh, I killed them all because they're all inferior, and
they were all in one timeline that got pruned, and you're good to go.
Like what I want. You remember, Alien, what was that movie that came out a couple of years ago?
Alien Covenant,
yes. So remember, you got the movie Prometheus, and they left a lot of stuff hanging. We're like, how are they going to answer this? And then when they meet up David, you get a quick 15-second slice of David on a ship.
David gets so much fucking screen time on this podcast. I don't know why we always go back to David. We love him.
But remember,
no, I don't.
I love him. Remember when he's on the ship and he finds this planet of the engineers and he just releases bombs on them all and kills them all? You remember that?
I think I remember that scene.
Yeah, and we all complained because we're like, oh, what's gonna happen with the Prometheus plot points? And they just killed. They solved it all in 15 seconds.
Carpet bombed it. Yeah.
They'll do the same thing with a new actor that he shows up and he just drops a bunch on the Council of Kangs. Yeah, I know people. I got a lot of people behind me tonight. You got bombs.
Santa coming through.
Yeah, Santa's elf on the shelf moving around. But anyways, that's what I think they do is they just show this Kang being powerful and just taking everybody out. I do think, and this is what I was going to bring up because me and Breaks talked about this a long time ago on our Avengers cast of Mike saying, what do you guys think about a villain team of pacified villains from different multiverses as a threat?
Little Sinister Six of Rogues Gallery sort of thing.
To me, that's a twofer because like I thought the easiest layup that they should have done to establish new Avengers was a Masters of Evil. Like just take people like Zemo, put them on a team and verse. Sam, Carol, who like T'Challa.
Establish the new team.
I think we've also like because there's a rumor we're going to talk about it in the X-Men portion, but I'll bring it here now. Part of the report was in the next saga they're going to focus on the X-Men and they're going to have the Avengers step aside, and I'm like, step aside, like. They're not even in front right now. We haven't seen, I say this all the time, but it's been 5 years. We've not seen an Avengers team. It was 2012, 2015, 2018. There was 3 years between each of those 3 previous Avengers movies, and now it's been 5 years. So it's like step aside. Like I feel like we've
gone through the time skip from Endgame.
We have, like we've done like literally in the story, and when it said 5 years later, we've like you said, we've done that in real time. So I think every day that Avengers brand is starting to lose more and more. And to me, that was always the easy one: is Masters of Evil versus Avengers.
Is there a typical Masters of Evil roster? Is there any like 3 or 4 characters that are
Zemo is usually one of the. He's like the original leader. Let me get the original members, see what we're cooking with here.
You gotta have well, I guess Zemo is very different in the comics, but I feel like with the Zemo that we have in our MCU here, I think he'd be perfect.
And you could have bulked him up, right? Like he gets a suit or something like that. So I guess something that can't be right. I don't think Dr. Octopus was an original member. He might have been in there, but I don't think he was the original.
I mean, he was never
member.
a Sinister Six guy, right? He was more.
They've all been Sinister Six guys eventually, right?
At some point,
Oh, I'm trying to find, but Zemo's usually the leader. Black Knight, which that could have been a fun way to introduce Kit Harington, but they've done that. Ultron was one, and so you could easily do that. Like that would be fun too. Like you get Zemo, you get Ultron coming back.
Do you do the what if Ultron, like the
No, you don't. That's Ultron. A little OP.
I guess he's pretty strong.
If you do him, you make him like the multiverse saga villain. Crimson.
I love that idea because I think one thing we've talked about a lot over the course of the MCU is that they had like a villain problem for years and years. The villains were kind of weak for the first 3 phases there, and then we got some strong ones with Killmonger and Thanos and stuff like that. But I feel like it'd be awesome to revisit some of those earlier villains, and we kind of we've done that a bit. Like even once again, I don't know, Quantum Mania is coming out tonight. With Yellow Jacket coming back as MODOK, which is like a very weird transformation there. But I would love to visit some of those earlier villains. You could even introduce 1 or 2 more in there. I think that would be super fun.
The leader they're bringing back for Cat 4 would have been perfect in that spot of like part of like, where has he been for a while? Abomination. Like I still like She-Hulk, but before they did what they did with Tim Roth, you could have used them there. Like I just think that would have been a very big layup. Okay, so RJ says Abomination and Enchantress were also famous members of the team. Yeah, I saw Enchantress. So apparently Doc Ock popped off a lot. So maybe get Alfred Molina in there one more time.
Yes,
that'd be great.
One more time. Why are you limiting this, man? Let's get another 10 years of Molina.
Yeah, good to see you, Manny. Love the hat, boys.
Hey,
Happy
Maddie.
holidays. Gonna watch tomorrow morning. Yes, take care. I know you're on the later side, but yeah, no, that I think. But like I said, I won't go on harp on too much. I already have as far.
We got to do that's. I'm gonna put that down in our topics though. Masters of Evil. We'll do a longer episode. We can really break out what that roster could look like. That could be fun.
Yeah, no, it'd be good. And like I said, I just think they should have. That was an easy layup. Establish the new team. Who's the leader of the Avengers, and then you get to this stuff. And I think unfortunately they're too far gone. They put the cart before the horse, but that's okay. So we'll take our first break, and then we're going to talk about now some X-Men. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So this comes from Daniel RPK. He's the guy that broke the Reed one. So either this has been the theory. Either he is a new source, he's getting lots of good scoops, or what Brent says is he got one right and he's just cashing in, making a lot of scoops. But we'll find out in the next few years. So this kind of tracks a little bit as far as they were meeting with writers a couple months ago, and now there seems to be some details. So the three biggest points are that they're trying to, much like Spider-Man, they want it to be different than the other X-Men ones, right? They want to go a different route. So the at least working idea is that the main character would likely be a female. I'm imagining Jean Grey in my mind. I think they would probably go that route.
Okay.
And maybe not. Maybe it could be Rogue. Maybe it could be Jubilee. Hell, I don't know. But that's the idea. And I know if people get mad, it's like all the X-Men movies were like, it was Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, you know, like, or James McAvoy. Like, it's always like there's not been a male lead, and some of them have gone past. But the three big things were right now, it seems to be like of course, it's gonna be a bunch of people on the team, but it'd be a female lead. Magneto is not slotted to be in the first one at all, not as a hero villain, just not at all. And they're eyeing Mr. Sinister to be the main villain for the first go round. I don't know if that means if he'd be killed off or what the deal is, but
you can't kill Sinister. He'll turn into some sand on the beach. Like he can always come back.
You know, whatever sounds he makes, but you know, whenever he gets hit by Scott's beams, you go,
it's hard. It's we talked about this in one of the retro. It's like so hard to emulate his voice because whatever the modulation they have in that, at least in the animated series, really hard to replicate, even with Taylor's magic that he has on the keyboard.
Yeah.
There.
So what if you're in the pitch room, they're talking about this stuff, you know, maybe stuff like X-Men's getting. We talked about this when those writers were like they're announced they're looking for writers. Maybe they're starting to push that a little bit faster because maybe they're kind of like, hey, we got to get some more big hitters in here. Again, I still feel like they shouldn't just abandon like Sam and stuff. Like I feel like they should have been pushing some of the characters they have now as like, hey, we got cool Avengers, but now I feel like I don't know, that's a whole other issue. But they sit you down to them and they say, you know, we're gonna have a female main character. Magneto's gonna take a little break for a bit. Obviously, we want to kind of be like Homecoming, where it's gonna be we want to tackle stuff that hasn't happened. Alas, Mr. Sinister as a villain as well, because that's one that never got the live action treatment. John Hamm was cast as him at one point, but the movie never happened. So he was supposed to be in Gambit. So what do you think about that kind of just initial working idea? That's maybe what they're working with, or kind of giving writers of like, hey, would these topics interest you in writing a movie?
Yeah. I mean, I love having Sinister in there. That's really fun. And that makes me think that, you know, Jean would make sense as a lead for that, just knowing that narrative. And of course, my knowledge on Sinister is strictly X-Men animated, but he appears in that a lot.
They do a pretty good job. And the origins of him being obsessed with the Scummers. Mr. Scummers, the Summers.
That's got to be a villain. I feel like that's more of a DC villain though, Mr. Scummers. That's the kind of deep cut character that James Gunn would pull out of the bag.
That's who Nathan Fielder would play, Mr. Scummers. You know,
yes.
I feel like Nathan Fielder has all over James Gunn radar. You know, like I feel like that's.
I don't think he'll do it. I don't think Nathan Fielder would ever. Be in a
I don't think.
movie.
Yeah. Do you think he could be like in the Suicide Squad where James Gunn had a bunch of people and they died off in that first scene? I can see something like that, maybe.
No, I don't think. I think he wants to be in cool, weird things or his own things.
Okay,
that's my. I don't know him, but that's my prediction.
That's fair.
That's my Nathan Fielder prediction.
I agree with you on Nathan Fielder. I just feel like Gunn. That's the type of guy who'd want like, I want him to play some sort of weirdo in like one of my movies and stuff.
Oh yeah, Gunn would want it absolutely.
Yeah,
you can't always get what you want though. Going back to it, so obviously, Sinister and the Jean connection makes a lot of sense. I will say though, from my experience, like I've never fallen in love with any Jean Grey adaptation. It's a character that I don't know why, and I guess I got to read some certain comic book runs, but it's just a character that I find it hard to put my chips behind that as being the leading character, just because I just feel like she's not super interesting. And you know, Dark Phoenix stuff, you can get some interesting stuff going on. Not that movie, but that storyline. There's definitely a lot of potential there. And I think with the right casting, you know, throwing Emma Stone in there, let's go. You can make it happen. But
Nathan, she'll get Nathan in.
But I think I would be much more excited for Storm or Rogue to be that leading role. I don't know how that ties into Sinister, but of course it's a whole team thing. So you could that could be the thing, is that Jean gets captured, and that's why she's not really like a big character in the movie, is because she's captured by Sinister, which is like the reason why the X-Men have to go after him, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But I guess Rogue, because even in X-Men 1 and 2, she's kind of
3. Well, no, yeah, no, you're
she's
right.
not really in that one very
No.
much, right? Yeah.
I
So like in
forgot.
1 and 2, like you'd say she's the lead, but she's definitely I guess she's more of a plot device. Even it's been a bit since I've rewatched those ones.
But she's a crucial character, I
Yeah.
think. Like especially the first one. She's a MacGuffin the first one, right? Because Magneto needs her for her powers and stuff. So in the second one, she's around quite a bit. So
and then I think Storm kind of speaks for herself. I think there's so much potential there in terms of what you want to do with that character. And that one might make more sense. Is like she's just the leader of the X-Men. Boom, end of story. I don't know how you swing Rogue as the lead character, but obviously you could make it happen. I just would need to see it on the screen before I could believe it. But I think Storm, you don't even need to talk about it. It's just like, yeah, that could easily happen. And it would be really cool too.
Yeah, I think Rogue you build up. I think Rogue, if she's in there, I want her kind of like the plucky underdog, kind of like what she is in the show a bit, where it's like she's great, but I mean, so much for like the show has some personal stuff going on, so she can't be the most dependable there sometimes. Or plus, like Gambit's around and stuff. So yeah, one day we'll get some comic books. So yeah, Jean's a great character. Obviously, my daughter is named after her, and she is one of the best X-Men. But the movies have definitely. The original trilogy, she was just served to kind of be there for Wolverine as some eye candy, which is not. There's some truth to that, but some not. To what you were saying, the two questions here from RJ saying that he guessed it would be like the first roster. My only issue with that when people bring up Jean, Scott, Beast, Angel, and Iceman, I don't think there's a world where they have just one female on the team this go around. I think they would spread it out. So I think that. I feel like the best way, in my opinion, is a 3 and 3. I think it's 3 guys, 3 girls, or just even just like binary people. Like I just don't think it's gonna be 5 guys and a girl. I don't think they'll want to do that. Maybe that's why it's female led, because it's like, oh, we just got Jean, So I don't know about that, and it's curious because like. I'm curious. And RJ's other question of like, will Wolverine be on the team all? I don't think so. And to me, it's like, if these reports are they want to be different than the other films, when we talked about that before with Spider-Man, that's why we didn't get Goblin or Doc Ock or Uncle Ben. So I think like you look at that original team, Jean, Scott, Beast, Angel, Iceman and Beast, especially Beast was just in the Marvel's credit scene. Like, I think those are characters they'll stay away from, actually, because I think they'll feel like, oh, they've already been done. Like, let's give Beast a send off here. I think Jean and Scott kind of work, because I think with if Sinister is the villain, Scott's in there guaranteed, because they're just so tied together. He's always obsessed with that bloodline, and I feel like that's a really good way to put Scott and Jean as like lead 1 and lead 2 finally, because it's a storyline about maybe, and even then you could flip it where maybe Scott's like the damsel in distress, where he's the one that gets kidnapped, and it's Jean and the team going to get him, right?
I also feel like I don't think they've ever nailed those two live action, so I think there's a big opportunity to finally make it work and do it better than ever before. Of course, naturally there's some risk involved, but yeah, I feel like the opposite could happen too. Or if you cast Wolverine as whoever and they don't live up to Hugh Jackman or something, if they do that going forward, maybe that's not good either. But I think there's so much potential there with Scott in particular.
Yes,
so I think Jean's been maybe done better than Scott has, but once again, I didn't do that retro with you guys, so I'm not as fresh on
to like a minor degree. But yeah, Scott's enough. So I agree with you, because that's where like Jean and Scott, of course, were all in those, but like you said, they weren't like big factors really. The guy was to be obstacles for Wolverine, and the girl was there to be a love interest, right? Like I think Mr. Sinister as a villain brings them up to be main characters, and then it's focused on them. Even someone like Angel, I could see. Iceman, I don't think so. And then the Rogue and Gambit of it all, I feel like that's a smart way to go. I'm just very curious how they do Gambit nowadays. Like, I'm not saying Gambit's like he's not a.
I just think you make him like a doofus jokester, like Chris Pratt type. I feel like that's what you do. You don't do any of the other. Not that there's anything problematic with him, but I don't know. I feel like
he's a little. Some of the things he says is a little problem, but at the same time, I guess it doesn't really matter. They would just change it, because like they had that character they introduced Harry Styles with. He's a character that had like way worse history than Gambit as far as like using his powers for like maybe sexual assault, and they kind of rerouted in the future, or in the present. But I think you still need him to be machismo. I've always said that Gambit to me should be a young Brad Pitt. That's what we're looking for with Gambit. And you just take
and
off.
I think that's perfect. Like, especially with the roster we're talking about, I think that's the kind of levity you need, not just to like fit that Marvel MCU quota. Check that box of making sure it's not too serious. You always have some quips in there. But you gotta have someone more lighthearted on the team, and I think he could be a good one for that. But in the future, if you want to go deeper on the emotional depths, I think you could still go there too.
I'm a Superman Mike. Kitty Pryde would be great, and especially
Yeah,
because Chris
I'd love to
Pratt
see
is
that.
on Earth, or Star Lord is, because yeah, they do get. I think they in the newest ones they got married, right? I think they did Kitty Pryde and Star Lord. That'd be great if you kind of link them up, because
Wow, yeah, Star-Lord's
yeah,
on Earth right now. He's chilling.
yeah,
And
as
Kitty
we've
Pryde was
said.
not someone that was done with the reboot, right?
No, she never made it. I guess because she
Yeah.
was like a child and stuff. But like, it's funny, our roster, classic because it's on the brain, we kind of pitch like, okay, you got Storm, Jean Grey, Rogue, and Gambit. If you got one more, who would you put on that? And it's not Wolverine. Because yeah, we're pretty 97, but I like that roster because I also think Jean, Scott, Rogue, and Gambit, they are romantically linked, but they're very different type of
Yeah.
romances. It's not too samey, you know. It's like, who would you put on there? You got Storm. Let's say she's the leader right now. Who's your sixth draft pick? And I'll say it for fun, not Beast either, because Beast is like,
Okay, that was what I was gonna say.
yeah, I feel like that's easy, right? Because we got Kelsey Grammer, they might not do him. Is there somebody? Is it Kitty Pryde? Is there somebody like that where they've
I
only
think it might
mildly
be.
been?
I think it might be Kitty Pryde for me, actually. Yeah,
Mhm.
I am down for another attempt at Jubilee. 'Cause she was used very sparingly
Yeah, that'd be
in
great.
whatever movie she was in. I can't even remember all these X-Men movie names anymore. but-
Apocalypse.
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
So I'd be down to see that too. Yeah, but I think Kitty Pryde would be my maybe number one. And yeah, like who else? Because
I got a good
Colossus, I'm
one, I
kind of fine
think.
with Colossus existing in like the Deadpool side and like
Yes.
going ahead with that kind of version. So
But if you
who
brought
else?
if you brought in Kitty Pryde, you could bring Colossus because they also have a romantic link too. So you could the whole X movie is just nothing but couples, you know.
Right.
I think
Nightcrawler, is that what you were gonna
that's
say?
what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Nightcrawler. I think because like he was only in that one movie, right? In X2. That's
Was
it.
he only ever in two?
Oh, sorry. They did bring him back in the first class there. I forgot, but I feel like he was very like minor. Like I feel like it wasn't a big
Oh, yeah,
deal
yeah,
that
yeah.
Nightcrawler was around. So I feel like Nightcrawler, like you make him cool. He sells toys. Like I just feel like he's someone fun in there. I think also with his religious aspects, you could even dive into that a bit more. So, and if you go out Rogue, something they didn't do
Yeah.
in the movies, they could do here.
And you
the
wouldn't
whole-
do that in the first movie. That would be a reveal down
Yeah.
the road with Mystique. Yeah, there you go. That's a good.
Yeah, so
finish.
I like that whether it's Kitty or Nightcrawler. Plus you could do seven, but I like one of those two as the sixth member, and I think that's good. And I guarantee you too, there's going to be a member that we have like completely left field. Like I've always been a big Warpath guy. I'd love to have Warpath in there.
Okay. Yeah, he
know?
was in Days of Future Past. Briefly,
Yeah, he
right?
gets killed off like a bunch because he's just one of the
Yeah.
like the protector of the realm sort of guys and stuff.
Yeah, it gets
so.
messed up by those morphine creatures, whatever. Those are.
Yeah, and I feel like because you didn't mention it, you aren't Tar, but are you not surprised about maybe Magneto taking a
Oh yeah.
seat for a bit?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said about looking at the Spider-Man villains and the way they chose to go with that direction of not going
Mhm.
with those classics and instead bringing in some other characters. And obviously, we've done that now with No Way Home. We obviously
Yeah.
went back to those places, but I think that's a good thing to do. I think start with some fresh characters we haven't seen before. There's a lot more juice to be squeezed in those villains, and I think
Mhm.
X-Men, especially obviously hot off the animated show. X-Men is just like Spider-Man in that way. There are a ton of great villains to pull from, and so I don't think you need to go for Magneto. So I think that's a good choice. Of course, I wouldn't be mad the opposite way around, but I'm okay with the decision. But you're a big Magneto head, is it not? Doesn't bother you either, though. I'm guessing.
No, because it's just like it's not like the Spider-Man thing where it's like, oh, I really want Goblin, or I dislike that they always were skirting around Uncle Ben. It's like Magneto was in so many projects. You know, I know people could say, oh, we got two Uncle Bens. I just feel like there's something different there, but I feel like with Magneto, and we got two great versions, like Ian McKellen and Fassbender. I feel like
well, you're lucky,
Xavier. I feel like Xavier is pretty vital to the team. But hey, even if they came and said we want to do something different, and maybe Xavier put this team together, and he's the classic like he's missing in this universe. I think some people would be really upset if Xavier wasn't the teacher. I'd be fine. I'm not saying that's what I want, but I'd be fine right now because we got so many versions, especially that first class era. Those two were the leads with each film. I know, I guess Jennifer Lawrence was in there, but still, I still think like McAvoy and Fassbender, those were the two guys leading that charge. So I'm fine if they take a break. Plus, they brought Xavier back. I think they'll probably bring McKellen back. You know, like we keep getting like with Deadpool and Hugh Jackman, like little sprinkles of them. So even if it's just Magneto, like, yeah, he's my favorite Marvel villain, but I think it's fine. And I think it is tough. People made the joke of like, oh, a villain with lots of great points that it's obsessed with metal again because it's Killmonger. And that's where it's just like, it is tough because I always said that when we had Black Panther, I'm like, oh, this is their Magneto. And then they got the rights. It's like, oh, shit. Like, they kind of. They like that is the Magneto story, like what Killmonger's is, right? It's like he feels like his people are oppressed and he's gonna use his power to strike back. And that's so I feel like a longer break, and there's Omega Red. We've said this before, like I know Kirkland would be happy, but like Mojo Vision, like there's so many cool X-Men villains. So yeah, bad, and even like Apocalypse, I think you can get like a real talk about like another big bad. You can really build that up again to be something like Magneto. I think he's a card that you can pull at any point and people are going to be there for Magneto. I think it's fine to sit him out. We got so many movies of Magneto. It's okay. We're Spider-Man. We got Defoe and that was it. So it's like, well, I want another Goblin. Like I don't count Dane DeHaan and Amazing Spider-Man 2. You know, same thing with Doc Ock. That's what will make complaints of like, I do want to see new villains, but if they're just off the table, that kind of sucks. So with Magneto though, we saw him several times, so we're okay.
Do you think what is your percent chance that within the next 15 years, let's say there's no reboot of MCU, it's going strong, you know, it has the ebbs and flows, but it goes on the upswing. What do you think the chances that there's ever just like a Savage Land movie, X-Men Savage Land, where like it's not like some little sequence in Multiverse of Badness where you saw it for like 2 frames, but it's like, you know, 90% of the movie is in the Savage Land. The
same movie. It's just the Charles Xavier and Magnus storyline.
You get Sauron in there. You get Khazar and Zabu and all those.
Zabu and Zoran, or Sauron,
Sauron, yeah.
So, if this was Marvel Alliance, I would say fiction because I don't think a whole movie would take place there. I think if the Disney Plus shows were popping off, that's prime for a Disney Plus series. It's just Savage Lands. Like, oh, perfect. So many episodes. But I think Savage Land will be a huge location at some point, but I don't think it'll be ever the X-Men are stuck here, you know? So, like, because I think even Sinister could be, like, hiding the Savage Lands. Like, he was in the show, right?
When you say you think it's going to be a huge location, what do you mean by that?
Like that, where, like, it would be Sinister's hanging out at Savage Land and the whole third act takes place on Savage Land. Okay. Yeah. Like a big set piece, like kind of like Titan was in Infinity War where they fought Thanos, like something like that, where when you're going, you're going to see like Savage Land on screen and the fanboys and girls and everyone's going, oh, they're going to the Savage Land. We know what that is. There's dinosaurs.
Man, I think they could do something where I'm going to grab Xavier as my example character here. But Xavier at the end of the X-Men movie, I don't know, let's say they throw some crazy portal at Sinister to like knock him into another realm. Somehow Xavier gets like, you know, Sinister throws out one of his weird arm things, grabs him, pulls him in, does like some twisty thing. Post-credit scene,
I like
Xavier wakes up.
Yeah.
Just sees a T-Rex and then like fades to black, and that's like the teaser of.
I thought I'll do one better, which I think you'd get that, and then in the distance you get a hello old friend, and that's where Magneto's been this whole time.
He's there too, right? He's riding a pterodactyl,
jacked and gray hair. Yeah, I think that's what you can say. Is
Taylor just faints in the theater.
This, He's played by Sam Neill. You know, he's just.
Oh my God, Taylor. Faint, wake up and faint again.
No, I think Magneto's stuck in Savage Land. That'd be good explanation where he is. You know, he's like, oh, he's just been stuck.
Whose voice is it? Whose Magneto voice is it? New actor or one of the classics?
It has to be new act. I think this would be the new one, and who knows who they get now in 15 years? Could be anybody. Could be
true.
Can't be you or me. I guess we're not Jewish, so.
Does that have to be?
I think so. His origins were the concentration camp. Remember his parents?
Yeah, but do you think I don't know. Haven't we? I
it's
guess
tough,
right? But at the same time, with the X-Men not having existed thus far, we've always speculated like, oh, maybe the Snap created. Yeah, you're right though.
Because it's tough. Because I always get the point of people being like, but that's like a big character.
I just never feel like that's a big part of his character, other than that flashback. I feel like I've never. Yeah. I never think about that as Magneto, but I guess
it's the impetus, right? It's the litany of a start.
It's a litany.
The last couple there, RJ said Rogue start off as a villain. I could see that, but because talking about the whole stealing Captain Marvel's powers,
I'd love that.
I would love that, but I've always said I don't think it'd be a villain. I think it would just be like the Avengers get in a situation where they're fighting the X-Men because it's like, oh, they don't know who's who, and then Rogue does. I think I don't know if there's enough time. Maybe if the Marvels was bigger, because imagine that if the Marvels bigger, we got Captain Marvel 3 and the villain when the villain was Rogue, that'd be so cool. But
That'd be awesome,
I
yeah.
think with the box office. The Marvel stuff is like it'll be around, but not as much. And then Superman Mike says Bishops will get some attention. I agree. I think you gotta wait on him for a bit. They already did Days of Future Past. I think they want to, and I think they're gonna stay clear of time travel multiverse for a bit as well too. After we get through the multiverse saga, I think they're gonna really not touch that for.
Yeah, I think we
go
ground level with X-Men.
Yes.
No cosmic stuff, no time travel, no interdimensional multiverses.
Well, speaking of ground level, another rumor that came out this week was some elements of Spider-Man 4. So Spider-Man 4 has some rumors going around that the plan is it's still going to be, grounded, more New York City based. It's been described as a civil war with street level heroes. And the rumored lineup right now, this is all rumor, but the rumored lineup in this plot is obviously Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Echo, Kate Bishop, and the Punisher. I think there's maybe one more, but most of the popular street level characters, Kate Bishop, Echo, stuff like that. That's been the rumor. So I don't
Sorry,
know.
are those characters on the same team, or
Well, that's why I don't know, and that's why I don't. That's why I don't buy like. I guess with because no matter what, the Civil War, it's definitely Spider-Man on one side and then Punisher and some other people. Because Punisher's definitely on the same side as Spider-Man. Is that the thing where it's like, let's say Kingpin and somebody's a villain and there's like a group of heroes like Punisher that are like, let's just kill these people, and Spider-Man the good team and Daredevil being like, let's do this like the way of justice, because like I could see Jessica Jones being on the kill side, right? She killed Kilgrave and stuff, so maybe that's what it is. There's no specification of who was there. It was just these are characters that are being talked about right now: Echo and Punisher and Jessica Jones. Matt also been talked about a bunch. But what do you think about that? As far as like we were fans of the Spider-Man animated series and a lot of those crossovers, would you be down for some sort of conflict between the street heroes of New York in a Spider-Man movie?
Would I be down for that? I just feel like we have so much ground to cover in this next Spider-Man movie in terms of him kind of being like a blank slate character, going into it, though, these connections. I don't know, man. You're saying Daredevil, you're saying Jessica Jones, Punisher, like you're whispering the sweet nothings. Like I do want it. I don't know. I got to think about it more. I have to see maybe the pitch for the full thing.
Yes.
The part that throws me off about this is the Kate Bishop one, though, because I just feel like this seems too soon after the setup of like the Marvel's post-credit scene for her to then be here.
True. She's just killing time in New York while Kamala Khan is trying to round up the heroes, right? That could be it. Kamala's at a different universe trying to find Elena.
I'm trying to think, is there another like Marvel character like that who was in like two kind of separate storylines, just kind of randomly at the same? Like, I don't know. I don't really see the connection between
Not Scar.
this to that. Not Scar, yeah.
Who else?
I'm surprised Scar got mentioned without Taylor having to be on the episode.
Yeah. Oh, now I just bring up all the time. Like, technically, Miss Marvel, she had to show them the movie. Like, she was bouncing between. Like, I guess not, but like,
I mean, she lives in New York.
Yeah,
I think still, who knows where she lives at this point?
Yeah, please give me a scene of Amon Vellani and John Bernthal. I want to see that conversation between the Punisher and Miss Marvel, and just what do they talk about? Like like Bernthal would get lots of good comedy gold, like
he's
deadpan,
he's
straight
so
humor.
good that I trust. I trust it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. There's something about this that seems like it's not going to be the case for me.
Yeah.
I don't. I guess if I had to pin, like the Kate Bishop and the Jessica Jones part are the things that stand out the most to me as not really lining up for whatever reason. Because obviously you got the connection between like
why
Daredevil
Jones? I get
and Jones, but
I
don't
feel like
really
they're
see
gonna bring her back, right?
I don't see how you leapfrog that into Spider-Man though. That seems like too much for me. Like I feel like if you want a character like that, like is She-Hulk not like a super strong, like she's not personality wise like Jessica, but I feel like that makes more sense in the MCU verse. Wouldn't you get Daredevil because of the She-Hulk connection there? And that's like, what else is She-Hulk gonna do?
Well, she's not in New York though, right? She's in Los Angeles. That's
Okay,
the
but
whole...
that's like
I
that's a
know.
one flight, you
I
know.
know.
What's one leap? I'm sure she can jump that
That's
distance
true.
pretty quick.
Maybe if it's like a serious issue like that, they don't want She-Hulk who's going to be a bit kind of quippy to be around. Like I know it's Spider-Man, I guess, but like all these other characters we listed other than Kate Bishop are serious, right? Like Echo, Punisher, Jessica Jones. Matt can be a little quippy, but he's more serious side.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe it is just the tone. Same thing as like why Kamala wouldn't be around, and I don't know. I really want like it's a like what is it first world problem, but I do really want some like soon confirmation on like what is happening with this movie, because we just keep hearing like obviously at least we keep hearing Daredevil come up, so I'm happy about that. And it's kind of like the Wolverine thing where honestly if I got Daredevil in it, that's really all I would need. I wouldn't need like I don't get me wrong, I wouldn't turn these down. But I just really want Daredevil and Spider-Man, and I want those two to be together for a movie and go from there. And Kingpin with some other big villain, great. That's all I need. But I do get, and this is what I was talking about today, because that's been the big, because you're on social media, but the big like complaint against this has just been like, oh, why can't they just make a Spider-Man movie? You know, it's just like, as usual, it's like a business agreement, and Sony signed on this agreement wanting MCU characters. You know, it's just like, so I never get why people have not really understood that. And I get that you want a solo Peter movie, but it's like you have 5 of those already. That's not Tom Holland, regardless, sure. But and even to me, in Homecoming and Far From Home, Fury and Stark are in them, but they're in them for such a small amount. Like No Way Home, I could give you, but that to me is just never a complaint. Like, and I would get why Sony, because I don't think any of those characters we listed, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Punisher, they're as big as Iron Man by themselves, but all together as a package, I think that's really cool and really tempting for them to be like, hey, we don't have a big A-tier character, but 5 characters here, really interesting. I just don't, the part I don't buy is the Civil War part, because I just don't think, it's not like the movie Civil War. We had all these phases and it made sense. Throwing all these characters in here, like, oh, there's a conflict. That just doesn't make sense to me. Like you need a lot of build up to get there, in my opinion.
I also feel like that what we maybe want and maybe what would be best for the character would be a small scale Peter movie where he's, finding himself again and there's like one villain. Like maybe and that's probably like the safest bet in terms of like this will be a good movie, but like, what are you going to do? You're going to have 2 movies that will say equivalent, like, threat level and whatnot. And then you're going to go to this thing where there's multiverses. They bring about Toby and Garfield, and they had all these, like, your favorite Spider-Man villains. And then the next movie after that is just going to be like, oh, yeah, we took, like, 7 steps back, and it's just, like, a boring old simple movie. Of course, me and you, Travis, and people in our scope, we want that.
Yes.
But I don't think Marvel's not going to look at it that way. Even something like Captain America, look at that, like how they ratcheted that up, the intensity of that to like building up to Civil War, and that looks like they're going to make Captain America 4, even though it's a slight difference, it's a new Cap character, but still like they're going to bring a bunch of other characters. Thor had a slimmer thing where smaller scale-ish for the first 2, then you go to Ragnarok and you start introducing all these other side characters, and then like Thor Love and Thunder throws Guardians in there, and that wasn't very meaningful, but it was still like, okay, we got to ratchet up the intensity. How many characters are in here? And I just feel like you can't really. I think you could go backwards, but I think from the Marvel perspective, I think from a marketing perspective, from the Sony's, they're getting their grubby little fingers in there. I don't think they look at it and think, oh yeah, let's go back to just some simple movie. And so even then, like I think compared to the big characters in No Way Home, I don't think these characters even stand a chance in terms of like big popular hype levels. I mean, you got the Netflix fans in there, I guess, but even that's been so many years since those shows were happening. So it definitely doesn't feel like as big as No Way Home, but it feels like an attempt towards that at least.
Well, that's always been my issue. Like, not that, like, same thing you said, not that I have an issue with it, but when people have said, oh, it'd just be Daredevil, I want that. But does Sony view Charlie Cox's Daredevil as big as, Robert Downey, Sam Jackson, or Benedict Cumberbatch? Absolutely not. Even to me, Daredevil and Kingpin as a package, not. So that's why I was thinking at least if it's like 6 or 7 characters, maybe they look at that as same thing as like, okay, it's a ground level thing, but if I could see Feige and team, if they keep pitching it to Sony, like this is the next Civil War, maybe that's how they could sell. And hell, who knows, maybe whatever we do, maybe that's where we do get a Tom Hardy in there, right? Like that could be another thing where, oh, we'll throw in one of these Sony things. So it's like, You got Bernthal, and because like Bernthal's a good star, and like Haley Steinfeld's a big enough star, and I think
Yeah.
the other ones have like certain levels. But I agree with you. That's always my fears. I want them to go back to basics, and I think that's what they need. But do they feel they can do that after No Way Home? I don't know. I hope they do. I'd love that because I think like as long as it's quality, that'll come. Maybe it won't be your $1 billion earner, but I still think he's going to be in all these Avengers movies. So that's where you can get your spider action. But of course, it's a Sony movie, right? So they also don't want to be like save the $1 billion movie for like Marvel Studios stuff. We also want to be the $1 billion movie, and
yeah, and you know like. There's a good chance that Zendaya is not in this next movie either. She's a big deal these days too, right? So
she'll be in.
You're
it.
also you think she'll have a big role in it?
They'll fork over tons of money to make sure. I think so. I think that's why.
What do you think they do story wise? They reconnect? I thought that like doesn't that take away from no? You think they just don't care about the story implications? They just got to do it because she's Zendaya.
I think you get halfway through, like the first half of the movie is like, oh, like you seem familiar, and then like by the end of the movie, they're together, they're kissing. I think it's, I think it reminds. We were just talking about X-Men. It reminds me a lot of Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, where Mystique, those movies were like, why is Mystique such a big main character? Why is she on the X-Men team? But it was like Jennifer Lawrence like blew up in between those movies, and I think Zendaya is the same thing where they will find a reason, some villain will kidnap her or something. Like I think Zendaya will 100% be in Spider-Man 4 and like a supporting character. I think they will have her in there.
I guess I'm thinking about the closest equivalent in the MCU is like Star-Lord and Gamora, and obviously Gamora's in Guardians 3 just as much as she's in any other one, but they didn't do the thing that a lot of us thought they would have like they just make her and Star-Lord get together again and there's some big happy family. And I mean, who even knows what the future of Guardians is, of course, with the James Gunn situation of it. But I don't know, like they didn't do it there. They didn't just get them back together.
She's not Zendaya though, you know, biggest star.
Dude, Zoe Saldana though, that's like the original Zendaya. Zendaya and Saldana. That's hard. That's like a tongue twister. She's a $1 billion movie maker right there, dude. She has more $1 billion movies than Zendaya than anyone else.
Majority of people in the world do not know she's an Avatar.
She's always wearing green skin or like blue CGI, but still, she's huge.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't think she's in demand like Zendaya. You know, she's not leading franchises like her. So I think this is where they'll, and I also just don't think they're going to do Gwen. I don't think they're going to do Black Cat. I don't think they're going to do, like, what's another love interest out there? So even just Felicia Hardy.
Yeah.
I think they're going to just stick with MJ. And it's not something I want, but I think with Zendaya, and plus they're dating in real life too. So I think that's the way, like, Tom keeps doing this thing.
Know about that. I think that helps. I don't know if it helps.
I think it helps because I think Tom keeps doing this thing where he's like, I don't know, like, I want to come back, but I'm not too sure how much I'll do it. I think if they get them both on, it's like, oh, well, we're doing it together, right? So, like, where we fell in love and stuff. So I think you pull the Zendaya, and that's, you know.
I feel like Zendaya at some point in her career is just going to stop doing these big blockbuster things and just go win, like, 5 Oscars in a row or something.
Yes.
Like, I think she'll go do that, but I don't know if she's doing that yet, because I think, you know, Dune's happening. Like, I think right now is like her blockbuster era.
Yeah,
she's gonna do it all. And then Euphoria is like her acting
Emmy
chops
era.
thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I hope we get some details on this soon because we're gonna get all those Sony movies next year. So I hope after that we start to learn something because it's been pretty quiet. We don't even know if we have a director for Spider-Man 4 because I don't know if John Watts is coming back because that was the other rumor that they were meeting with. Like, they want Watts to come back, but there's other people. So
remind me, did he do 1, 2, and 3?
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
all 3. So. All right, we'll take our next ad break and then we'll be right back with some video game news. We'll be right back. And we're back. So we're going to do the 2 quick hit movie things just because we are going to talk about the Wolverine leak last, just in case no one wants to know any sort of details. Luckily, I don't think there's any like massive story spoilers out there, but if you don't even want to know like certain characters and stuff, then you can skip ahead. But if not too, there will be a cutout on the main feed and on the side quest feed, so look out for that. So these 2 things we haven't got to talk about because this happened like the day after, 2 days after the Game Awards, but A24 is making a Death Stranding movie, so it's not the most timely thing, but I want to talk about because, like, also we don't have Kirkland. I don't think you ever beat it, but you, me, big Death Stranding fans. Yeah, like I said,
the notorious not beater of games, but
buyer of least. But
buyer,
yeah,
yes.
what do you think about this? Hideo Kojima team on A24 making a Death Stranding movie. There's nothing about a director. There's nothing about like if it's going to be based off the game, just that's happening. So one, were you surprised that's a movie? And two, what do you think about A24, a studio that we love? We love seeing what they put out. What do you think about them taking the reins on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess not really that surprised. I mean, like Death Stranding has so many freaking cutscenes in it. It's such a story-focused game, and Kojima's talked about his love for movies and all these things. So it doesn't shock me in this era where video game adaptations are happening left, right, and center into the TV and movie realm of things. A24, that's awesome. I think that's a great pairing. It's very fitting for what Death Stranding is in terms of the weirdness of it, and so that makes me excited. But in terms of the, I don't know, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what it is, but I just feel like there's no way that they can live up to what the story and world of that game is in a movie. You need like 3 seasons of a TV. Like that game is long. That is a long game. I just feel like you're gonna have to cut a lot of stuff, make it a simplified version. It can definitely work. You can make it more of a personal journey and tone it down and whatnot. I don't know. I guess I just love the game so much, and I know that it was like 60 hours long. I don't know how you do that well, I guess.
Is there a chance they do that good old, it's in the world of Death Stranding, and it is based in that world, but it's not about Sam Porter Bridges, and it's not Mads Mikkelsen? Do you think that's a possibility in this scenario?
Right, because I was thinking, man, you just get Norman Reedus to play the character again.
Mads, Margaret Qualley, Leah Seydoux.
All these characters. Oh man, Margaret Qualley, please get her in that project. She's so good.
Conan O'Brien, make sure he's in there.
Yeah, get Jeff Keighley is in that game, right? So
he can't wait. He's like my big break coming.
You know that there'll be a 15-minute spot at the next Game Awards where he can talk about his...
Guillermo?
Yeah, I get Guillermo, even though it was like a different voice, right?
Yep. Get that same voice actor to do his voice again, you know?
Yep.
Troy Baker, he's another one that's just like, oh my God, I get to be in it finally.
I would be down to see that too. Yeah, so that's a good point. I guess I was under the impression that it would be a retelling of the story, but I feel like the story that was told would be hard to do because I feel like the interactive nature of it and the spacing, the loneliness of it is so important, and I just feel like maybe some of that stuff is hard to... Like, even in that game, the pacing is crazy that you walk from the East Coast to the West Coast or whatever it is. Like, to do that in a movie, I think would come across as, like, really wonky. So, I don't know. I think that maybe is the route to go do something else within that world. And that would just cracks it open a whole lot. But then I think I actually am a lot less interested, potentially. Like, I'm interested that I'll still see this day one and I'll watch every trailer and talk about here on GeekVerse, of course. But I love the characters in that game. Almost every single one of them I really, really enjoyed, both the performance and the story stuff going on and the interactions between them and all that. So, yeah, I guess I feel very conflicted on this one, as you can tell, Travis. I don't know. Yeah. I'm interested, but I can't say it was maybe my top pick for a video game adaptation to a movie.
And let's say they do just the full-on, we're going to do the story. Do you expect them to get the original actors, or do you expect them to get new people?
Oh, man, I feel like it'd probably be hard to get every single one of them back just because of how scheduling works in the world. I guess it depends how much of the crew they decide to get, because I Norman Reedus would absolutely make it happen, and he would be like, you got to get him. You can't skip out on that.
I think Mads is a must. I think
Mads is a must, and I think it could happen as well easily.
I think Leia Seydoux is also a lock too.
Who else, right?
I think Leia Seydoux would be a lock because Kojima and her are always like they've been spotted together, not like a People magazine, not like that, but there's many times of them hanging out. Like I think they're friends past that, or they became friends from that experience. I think he was a big fan of her work. They work together and they stay in contact.
And I feel like that trio is like, that's your main cast.
Yes.
And that gets the job done. And then, you could bring, what was it? The guy up in the mountains, like well, there was Hardiman and there was Hartman.
Yeah.
I think Hartman, that's the kind of character where you cut.
Yeah.
Hardman. I mean, I guess you need some president, or not president, but government-y people. And he was one of those main guy. I really want Mama in there, though. I just want quality. That's the one I want the most,
See, and I think that's one... I think you can do the game. You just cut a lot of that stuff. I think You got to, because the biggest thing about that is you got to have the Death Stranding vibe. You got to have that Lost. You got it. To me, this like almost. I don't think they would, but I feel like it requires it to be a 3-hour movie. You have to make it feel like you've been through and the trek.
Yeah.
Like, and for me, the best person that I want to direct this, I don't know, because my theory is also that Kojima's going to direct it. Because we always say when's Kojima's going to direct a movie. I could see this being his first one and taking a chance, and especially because then if it hits, it's his own project.
Yeah.
He knows it, and that could be big for him. But what I thought is like what I want for the vibe, and again, you know, GeekVerse.ca didn't love it. It pained me, but I want David Lowery to direct it. He's got that Green Knight, that slow pace of Gaijin, like walking through, like hiking the mountains, trying to get to his endpoint, seeing a big giant. Like, I think that just kind of lull and that slow, monotonous pace in a good way is what this needs, because you need to get that sense of dread when you're hiking. So that's why I think that they'd cut Mama, they'd cut Hartman. I think they'd keep the government stuff, they'd keep the mom storyline, and they'd keep Mikkelsen. And I think that they'd streamline just those really main and
you have to have like a, what's her name, Amelia, right? I feel like you need to have. She was like, she doesn't need to be in the movie very much, but I think you got to have her in there.
Why am I forgetting about Amelia?
There's like the red dress, like the long blonde hair. She's not really in, like, you see her at the very beginning and then the end, I think. And, like,
is she tied to like some of the twist stuff, right?
Define twist stuff. I think her name's Amelia. Right?
Like
Who's the actress who plays her?
Amelia.
That's the character's name. But.
She was an older actress, and then
Amelie, sorry.
Amelie. Because there's a.
I just feel like that was a big like driving force for Sam as the character, right?
Yeah, because I'm trying to say something, because there's something about that character. I can't remember if it's a twist or not, but I agree with you that character's crucial. That's what I'd say. I agree with you that you need that character,
and that's one that I don't think hurts. Of like, oh man, how do you also fit that character in there? Like, I think that could be a character with just a small amount of screen time that we can still get that depth out of.
Because there is that one, like it's Myers was, but there's something to do with her character at the end where it's a very long prologue. Monologue. That stuff you could probably trim down a little. So
I'm also trying to think, because man, like once again, long game, hard to remember like where certain story beats happen and whatnot. And obviously the game can be shorter or longer depending on how much you build highways and shit. But I'm trying to think, like, is there a good point in that game story that you can remember that would be like a good, like the way Dune was like part 1 at the very end. It was like, okay, this was like a self-contained movie, but you're leaving it open so you could do more. Like, I'm trying to think if there's a spot in that story where we could take it and like, if they only get one shot at it, they make it work. And I feel like A24 is that kind of studio, you know?
Yeah.
But then if it's super successful or people want more, you could go further down that route.
I think if the intention was for sure aim for a part 1 and part 2, I think the part 1 could end when you have that big boss battle with Troy Baker's character, because it's a big
right.
set
He could
piece.
be the main villain, I guess, of that first one,
and then you
Mads
move to Mads.
He's like in it, but like just in hints and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I feel like you could do that, but I think if they're saying, oh, we only got one shot, Troy Baker's character unfortunately gets all pretty much cut out, and that just becomes like kind of a goon-like character. So. I'd say that would be the
I
best
think
point.
even if they just make it about, like, even, you know, I love your Green Knight comparison. I think that would be a great actor choice. But even just the way that character descends into madness in Green Knight, I feel like that you could very much do that with Sam, and it's just him against the goo monsters, and we're not generally like, oh yeah, bring on more CGI villains. But I think you could, the creepiness, I'm already picturing the music and just him getting sucked into these places, you know, under the world of Tar, whatever happens. Like, it could very much just be like Norman Reedus, just one man play sort of vibe. And I think that could work for the most part.
Yeah, I was so mad on their website. They put out an A24 shirt with like the things that hang down you're not supposed to touch in the game when they're like can be invisible. So it was logo with those hanging down. Sign up for
things that you like snip, like the umbilical cords or whatever they are.
Sign up for notifications, because it went live at 6. Like, we'll let you know when it's, you know, a lot like being sold. And the next time on our website, it's just like all the shirts were sold out. I was so mad. I wanted the shirt so bad. That happened last time with A24.
That's a nice shirt.
Yeah, and have you ever seen the A24 Everything Everywhere All at Once shirt? That's another one I wanted, and it sold out right away. They make so few of these shirts, and like I would buy all of these. I just get annoyed with them. It's all like the googly eyes and stuff. So, but the one thing, what I do like about this, so I don't know. I'm for both. I'm for if they come out and say we're doing a complete, adaptation of the game, great. If they do a story within the world, that's great. I'm all down for Death Stranding. I love that world. Director, like I said, I could see either way of like experience or Kojima's the first one. I think just my biggest positive from this is not even that Death Stranding is being made into a movie. I'm just happy that it was a couple of weeks ago or maybe months ago. Remember when we talked about there's that report that A24 is going to get into bigger budget films, and we are like, okay, we get that you have to do that as a studio, you have to grow, make that profit, but we just don't want them to lose who they are. And to me, Death Stranding, that's like a perfect combo of that could be a big budget sci-fi action adventure movie, but that's not losing who A24 is. Like, I feel like that fits right in their wheelhouse of,
Absolutely.
weirder type of blockbuster. Same thing we're going to talk about in the 2024 preview, but like that Civil War movie where it's about America divides in half and they're having a civil war with each other. And that's where it's like, oh, that's A24, where it's going to be an action movie about American versus American, but there's this very political spin. So that's why with Civil War and now Death Stranding, I'm liking like Civil War is A24's most expensive movie ever. It's $75 million, which is funny. That's their most expensive movie. But so to me, it's like, if these are the first few signs of the big blockbusters we're getting, I'm very happy. I'm happy it's not like a God of War or obviously Uncharted was done, but something like that. I think this fits their wheelhouse, and this just gives me hope for what they're going to do in the future. So
absolutely.
And
I think
speaking
you film it in New Zealand. And,
yes, not
it's
the
very
volume.
Dark and rainy. Yeah, not the volume.
You got to be outside for this. You got to have natural
Yeah.
sets and grass and everything like that. So, the next thing, talking about video game related, so this is smaller news, but I'm bringing it back up because the Screwer reported, and it's the first time it's come up. And plus, I don't think I've gotten your opinion on this because I covered on a Trash told you, but the same scooper that put out the MCU X-Men news put out that Illuminati has not Illuminati. Illumination has either pitched or they're going to be pitching Nintendo that they want to do their Avengers and they want to do a lead up and have that obviously be Super Smash Bros. But what I was bringing up, and this is what I want to ask you because we haven't talked about this on the news together with the other guys, is they announced there was a rumor that Illumination pitched them doing Zelda and they said no, and then they went to Sony and they did the live action Zelda. And that's what I want to ask you, like, with this, if there's some supposed pitch, do you think like a Zelda can work both where it's a live action animation? Do you think Zelda in animation would be like a Hulk where you just have Link and the crew as characters but there's not a movie? Or do you see a Smash Bros movie where it's like the MCU without the X-Men for a bit where, okay, I don't think they gave the rights away, but what if there's because that was the whole thing that Illumination wanted to make it and Sony outbid them or outpitched them, whatever the deal is. Do you think that would be the route where we could maybe have Super Smash Bros, but they just say, don't include any Zelda Link stuff? That's to me the real, because those were the rumblings. But then when that happened to me, I thought this project was dead because I thought, well, that's odd that they had this $1 billion hit with Mario and then with Mario and Illumination, they decided to go with Sony, who is very iffy. So that's why I thought, okay, Super Smash Bros probably dead because they're already splitting up the studios and stuff. So what do you see with the Zelda of it all? Because that's not a rumor, that's a confirmed thing. Live action Sony movies happening.
Yep.
Do you think that's just like an easy piece that you move out? Do you think it's something that maybe this is just a pipe dream and Nintendo won't want to do this as an actual movie? Like, sure, Illumination wants to do it, but Nintendo has really no interest in doing a Smash Bros type of movie.
Yeah, how would that work in terms of film rights and whatnot? Like, could there not be an animated Zelda?
There could, yeah, as long as Nintendo didn't
sign.
Yeah, I don't think they did, but as long as Nintendo didn't sign like an exclusive deal, I don't think they did. I think it was just the idea that Illumination was kind of caught off guard that, why is this happening? So it could still happen, an animated movie. And could that work though? Can you have two at the same time?
I think for Zelda you can, yeah. I think other Nintendo properties might not fare the same, but I think Zelda and Mario are just so huge that I think you can get away with it. Mario did have the live action movie, remember? But
Yes,
no, jokes aside, I think that is one that could happen, and I think they could be very different tonally. Now, obviously, we know the Zelda movie is happening, but we don't really know very much about it. I guess we have a director. Do we even have? Do we have a writer as well?
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, I can't remember, but it's one of those of like. I'm not expecting good things. I think like one of the biggest credits was Detective Pikachu, but I'll let me get it. But there's more questionable projects there.
Yeah, because I remember the director is like the Maze Runner guy, right?
Yeah, and the new Apes guy, that guy too.
And you know what? My prediction. I'm putting this out there nice and early. Let me get his name here. My prediction for Link casting is gonna be Thomas Brody Sangster, who is in Maze Runner.
Okay.
Like in those trilogy movies, and he was in another one of that director's movies, I think. So there's a big connection there.
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't know if you remember this guy. Look him up, Thomas Brody Sangster. This guy's got Link written all over him. This is a Link if I've ever seen one.
Sangster.
He plays like the nice person in Maze Runner.
Yeah, Love Actually kid. Yeah, I could see him. Just how old is the guy now? He's 33 though.
Okay, he looks like he's 15.
Yeah.
Like this is
I
easy.
could see that. I could see that. The other fan cast right now is the Percy Jackson kid. That's the other one.
No, too young.
And then the other one
30 years or older, please.
The other one I want is the mean pick is Hunter Schafer, and the mean pick is her.
I want that so bad.
But it's her
I don't
playing.
see it happening.
No, me either. But it's her playing Link and Zelda. I'm like, oh, that'd be fantastic.
What?
You know,
It doesn't make sense. What do you mean?
Yeah, that'd be fun. Like Link and Zelda, because she just looks like she has features similar to them both. So that's
you just
where
have okay, yeah.
Yeah, you just do that. So here's the
I think
writer.
you pick one. You pick one for Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the writer. So they wrote Jurassic World, Kong Skull Island, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Detective Pikachu, Jurassic World
Yeah.
Dominion, and Rise of Skywalker.
Right. So I see, because I remember you talking that you weren't
Yeah.
happy with the
We're
writer,
not-
and
it's not good.
I understand why, but I also understand why they picked that person. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah, we talked on the Discord, right? Because it's $1 billion, like, massive hit movies. Other than Pikachu, they're all hit movies. So.
Oscar-winning editor, writer, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So
I don't mind the editor in there, but
how do you feel about my one pitch? So you feel like, okay, they could do both, which I think I think if they do, what I'd like is they do the live action one with an adult, and I would love it if they did the animation in the style of like Wind Waker or something like that, like really set them apart, where the animation could be like the kid Link or young Link to Link, and then animation is, your guy or Percy Jackson kid or Hunter Schafer, like
my guy. Yeah.
yeah, your
mine.
pick. So that's what I like. How would you feel if they said they were gonna do it without Zelda though? If they're like, we don't want to cross stream, so we'll do Smash Bros, but zero Zelda, zero Link, zero anything.
I think you could get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could get away with it, but I feel like with Zelda, what you mentioned there of like Wind Waker versus Breath of the Wild versus Ocarina of Time, like you have so many different art styles and tones to
Breath
pick
of the
from
Wild even
as well. Yeah, exactly. That art style, that who knows what they go for the live action movie, but I think no matter what, you could still do something different. Like, I don't know, what kind of era do you think they're going to try and match up aesthetically with one of those eras of Zelda, or are they just going to kind of do their own thing for this live action?
For live action,
Yeah.
I think I have to, in my crystal ball, if there is if there was a live action animated for sure, then I think they'd say we got to go with this style. If there's not, I think it's just kind of fantasy. Like, I think the director did say something about a certain kind of like anime aesthetic, and I don't think like exactly the old school anime, but there's some movie he cited.
If he said that, I would think Breath of the Wild. That seems to me
I agree with you.
Like Ghibli anime-ish sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Ghibli, but I think it was something like that, like Zelda inspiration. But I think I would hope so. To me, if they're not,
because I just feel like Illumination. Go ahead.
A live action Miyazaki film, and that's the one like Burn the Hair. So, and to me that makes sense. And like for me, if you are a director or a writer and you don't have like a visual idea for Zelda, to me you wouldn't get the job. It's like you gotta have. I would think that's a thing you'd have to have for this movie, whether it's whatever era. You should have a take and a look for it. Should not just look like generic fantasy movie. Like Lord of the Rings has a look.
I think you just for this animated one. I think you just straight up go like Ocarina of Time style. You really tone up that saturation, that brightness, and you have stupid jokes of Link rolling into a wall and bonking and like smashing an urn and like doing all the crazy noises that he does. You have like the fairy that I'm forgetting the name of, like just being really annoying. Yeah. I think you go hard on that tone, and obviously Ocarina of Time even, and especially Majora's Mask, get pretty dark. And you touch on that to some extent in the way that the Mario movie has like a scary moment or two, and then like Bowser's talking about killing Mario, like he's dropping the K word in this situation. But like it still is Illumination, lighthearted and fun. So I think you got to, and maybe for that, then you go with, I don't know. I guess if you're doing Ocarina of Time, you're doing like a time travel thing, where there's young and adult Link. I guess you could go that way. But I feel like the Illumination style to me, like just young Link. You just go with that version of it. Yeah.
Like I said,
Wind Waker's cool and all, but I don't think you do that for the super. Like I don't think you do that as the thing that leads to the Super Smash Bros. I think that's like more of the deviation, and I don't know if they ever do that in the movie sense.
I just want that art style. I'd love to see some studio try and do that art style.
They do.
Wind
They have a
Waker
sequence in the
movie,
movie somehow where he's going time traveling, and then he somehow gets sucked into some other dimension through a Mario pipe in the wall, and then like you go into Wind Waker world for like 5 minutes, so you can get that. You can have fun with it, but it doesn't have to be the whole thing. I think you can still get a little bit of that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I hope something like that happens. And for me on the Smash element, of course, like I want he and Zelda wasn't in the original game, right? It was just Link.
Who? Sorry?
Zelda wasn't in the original, the very first.
Just Link.
Yeah, just Link. I'd want him there, but at the same point, I could also, let's say they said they didn't want to do that. We don't want to cross-pollinate. We don't even want to do anime movie. We want to do anything. Maybe there's like an Easter egg or two, but I could see them maybe taking the route, because I do think I'm completely fine that I read comics, I love the games, but maybe they want to stick to just the really more cartoony characters like a Donkey Kong, Mario, Star Fox, Kirby, things like that, where Samus, Link, like not that they would get there, but like Snake, like there's some of these more like humanoid characters.
I would not trust Illumination with Metroid.
Yeah, and that's where I wonder too if like that's the idea of, well, like of course I'd love them to be there, but you don't need Zelda for it to happen. The same way the Avengers didn't have certain members on that team when they first did it, right? So I could see the pitch of, hey, if Zelda's not included, that's still fine because Nintendo has like a plethora of characters. And I think there are some where it's like, it's fun when we play the game, but in a movie world, it's like, how does Samus fit into this, right? Like the space, when we're Star Fox, you see Star Fox and Mario side by side, go, okay, these are two kind of goofy characters. Like I can buy this right away. So, and I think too, like you want to be realistic. You don't want to, even the first roster of the video game, you can't, I just think they do that size-wise with the Pokemon and all the Mario characters. Like you'd have to limit it,
I forgot
right?
about the Pokemon. Yeah, I wonder rights-wise how that works
I don't think they'd hammer that out. Because what are we...
They gotta make it happen, though, because I feel like you need... I think you need Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon. I think those are the three pillars. Because someone like Star Fox, like, I don't know, is Star Fox getting anyone to like, buy a ticket for this? Yeah, the answer is yes, but like I don't know. I think you need bigger names than that, and I think that's how you do it. You get Pokemon in there, because there's so much you can do with Pokemon. You put Squirtle in the movie for 5 seconds, and people will give it a 10 out of 10. There's a lot of Pokemon fans out there.
So let's see. I was just looking at the original roster. Captain Falcon, you get Captain Falcon there.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just like you get like a lot of just Mario characters, because you got Donkey Kong, we know that's gonna happen.
I mean, Donkey Kong would probably get his own movie first, right? So that makes sense. Link,
I think Star
Mario,
Fox would,
another Mario sequel, right?
And I think Yoshi, you could do Yoshi's Island and stuff. And I just don't know if
you think they do? No, Yoshi's just in Mario, I think.
No, I think I think with it being $1 billion movie, they will. I think they're gonna like Despicable Me.
You think they could pull off a Yoshi movie?
Yes, you know why? Full movie with a Baby Mario. The merch sells itself, Dylan. Baby Mario here, like Grogu.
What's the character? What's the dialogue? Is Yoshi talking in this? They get Robert Downey as Yoshi. Like, what are they?
The Minions don't talk though, right? And they have their own movie. They pair them up with other characters that can talk. So I think you just pair Yoshi and Baby Mario up with somebody that can talk, and then you're good to go.
Do we even have a Yoshi movie at that point? It's just like, Metroid, just Samus in there.
If Despicable Me, you got these characters going like, and they got their own movie. Yoshi, that can be Yoshi.
Don't the Minions talk? Don't they?
No, they speak in like they say banana, but that's about it. They speak Minionese.
Yeah, okay, that's the thing where I think the only Illumination thing I've ever seen is Mario. So I don't know their chops in that way. But I guess you're right, because that's the other thing I was thinking is like Kirby, pretty big character, but like I don't know, do you do a Kirby movie? Like how do you make that work? But I guess
if you don't do Link, you definitely have to.
Yeah, you got something there with that. I also think, Animal Crossing could be one. That's not in the original game. It's not even in Melee. Not even in Brawl.
really?
But I think you do Animal Crossing potentially. I feel like that's a pretty big deal.
Do you touch Earthbound or Ice Climbers?
Ice Climbers, no. I think Ness Ness could be in Smash, but he wouldn't have his own movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll see. Like that. That's what I'm wondering because I also think like they will do Luigi's Mansion movie and they'll make Luigi bigger. So I could see a lot of.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I could see a lot of the Super
A24, that
Smash. Yeah, played by Joaquin Phoenix. You know?
I would love that.
I would love Luigi.
Whenever he looks in the mirror, it's just actually Joaquin instead of Luigi.
Yeah. No, I think we'll have to wait and see. I think that's what I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop to see if they announce a Zelda anime movie because I think that'll tell us a lot. And I could see the Super Smash Bros. Movie being littered with just a lot of Mario characters, Peach, Wario.
Yeah,
like they could just take that route because it is Super Smash, right? The Pokemon thing I don't know because I just don't know if
I think you need them. I think you need them truly.
I think for the hype.
Fire Emblem. What do you think about
yes.
Fire Emblem? Too niche, I think, to get a movie still, probably, right?
Not for part one. Not for part one. They got locked down Pokemon first, but I just don't know because isn't that company always kind of weird with Nintendo in general too? Sometimes
Pokemon.
Yeah, so like,
Well, they're a
would they
separate
be,
company. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, so like, are they
technically.
going to be like take the call of like, hey, we want you to be in our movie, and like, what's the profit mark? Like, it would to me be like much like Spider-Man with Marvel and Sony. There'd have to be many lawyers in a room cracking down who gets what profit wise.
I just don't feel like Pokemon's that defensive with their IP.
Okay,
I
you know
think,
more than me
like,
on that.
There's like a million Pokemon movies and TV shows. Like they know that stuff works and it gets fans out
Yeah.
there.
hype.
They did Detective Pikachu, so they got the animation style down. You know, get the
Yep.
creepy Jigglypuff in there.
God damn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see. But I like that I like those rumors going around, and I hope this pitch goes well. I want them to take it. I pitch good because if not, then we're gonna get a bunch of solo stuff. So
What if we just got like a Game and Watch movie?
then it's over. It's over. The universe is over before it starts. You know,
Yeah.
that's like starting with Quantumania. You don't start with Quantumania or second with it, but.
Yeah, true.
All right, so now if you want to tune out in case you don't want anything, but like I said, we're not going to be talking about any spoiler stuff. We're going to be talking about stuff that is out there and stuff, but nothing, because I don't even think that's out there. But we're going to be talking about this big Insomniac Wolverine leak.
I would say there's spoilers involved in this. I mean,
Yeah, but I guess for me, it's just like with the character roster being out there, like, I get it is a spoiler, but to me, it's not like oh man, this ruined the game for me. You know, like I don't think there's anything that's ruined the game for me. If anything, like it did make me more excited. But like, what do you know about this leak so far? Have you watched all the footage, looked at all the Discord stuff? Where have you been on it?
I've looked through the Discord stuff.
Yes, nice. Good.
And that's pretty much the extent, honestly. I didn't really dig too much deeper than that, but even that was like, holy shit, this is a lot to chew on. I need to pace myself here.
Yeah. What do you think about just the in-game stuff first? I'm curious.
The like footage of, I guess,
Yeah.
Jean. Well, I guess was there footage of Jean? I just saw like the
There
screenshot.
is footage of Jean.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a
I gotta
playable.
watch that.
She's for sure a playable character.
Yeah.
So our MJ missions in Wolverine are going to be Jean Grey missions, which I think are a
But now you're gonna have a
massive
magic,
step up.
telekinetic, floating character instead of
Yes.
slow, stealth character.
And they can actually fight. Massive step up to me.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's very early, rough footage that is missing a lot of art and whatnot
Yes.
from what I've seen. So obviously, in that way, it's like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look amazing, but I am very excited for what we have cooking in the next few years with Insomniac. I guess I'll put it that way. But yeah, I gotta go watch this Gene footage because I want to see that in part. That's because I don't think I need to see videos of what like Wolverine looks like. You know, to know. Like I already have 100% faith, but like I got to see what this Jean Grey stuff looks like. So I'm more curious on that. So how did that look? The magic and whatnot.
It looked good. She was popping off some purple magic. She was fighting off multiple enemies. She had like projectiles and stuff. And yeah, she was I think floating a little. So it looked good. I'm all of it looked good to me. I love people are kind of comparing it. They said it looked like a Arkham Asylum meets God of War, and I think we had talked about before where God of War might be a good template for them, where it's minorly open world, but not really. It's a to and from, and it looks like it's that. It has stuff like the Batman thing. It fits for Wolverine, where Batman has detective vision. He has like smell-o-vision, where he's going around, he's smelling stuff, and that's like leading the trace. So like that's really cool. Some of the action, like it's kind of like what you said, where because the Insomniac, I trust them, but it was like a reaffirming of, oh, this just looks like when it looks like it's gonna be. If this to me looks good when we get the final product, this is gonna be great. Like this looks
Yeah.
exactly like everything I wanted from there. And
Which I mean, yeah, didn't like would anyone have any doubts? Like Insomniac
No.
has just been absolutely crushing it for years at this point. So
yeah.
yeah, I feel like we had 100% faith. It's just it's cool to see other characters, I guess, because that's the stuff we didn't really know about.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What do you want to talk about the rumored lineup, or do you want to talk about the rumored game lineup first?
Maybe. Oh man, maybe start with the game lineup.
So the Gene thing's interesting because the supposed roadmap came out, and that's where it's out there, and so far it sounds like we're getting Venom 2025, which is a far ways away, but I think that's just like a Miles Morales equivalent, where it's a smaller game.
Can I? This is a spoiler conversation. Can I ask you a Spider-Man 2 question?
Yep.
Venom, he's playable in that game, I'm guessing. Spider-Man.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Fantastic! I can't wait for you to play it. They hit it. They hit home run with the whole sequence. You do a boss fight
sequence, so it's just like one part, or
it
can
is,
you
but
go
it's
around the open world with him afterwards.
No, you could. They fixed it. There was a bug where you could escape and go in the open world, but it's like a really put together sequence. But it's not like a cut time sequence. It's a full level, but you're as Venom. But there's also a boss fight. Like you fight another big Spider-Man villain as Venom, and it's a really satisfying.
So it doesn't sound like you were like, oh shit, man, they should have like had him as a full playable character. It doesn't sound like you're disappointed by the implementation, even if it was limited.
I wanted that, but I think because we're in the post Miles Morales world, I just thought this Venom game's not a surprise. I thought we're gonna get that eventually. Yeah. So to me, playing as them, they nailed that, and the sequence to me actually went on longer than I thought it was gonna go. I thought it would just be a slice and like an MJ mission. It's much longer than an MJ
like 2
mission.
hours, 1 hour.
No, it's probably I feel like I'm building it up. It's probably shorter than that, but it's just I'd say it's like an MJ mission times 2. So the way but it's just like it feels so smooth, like as Venom. It's like everything you want, like how we complain about Ultimate Alliance, like he doesn't feel like that's like it's so fun. It's like a dream come true as that. So
okay, so yeah, that's well, that's not the first thing up. I guess the first thing up is Spider-Man 2 multiplayer or whatever, online, I guess.
Yeah, because they're back and forth. Yeah, and that's where people don't know if it's a for sure thing happening. But yeah, I think it goes Spider-Man 2 online and then the Venom game, which I'm really curious about. Is Spider-Man 2 online just you can just swing around with your friends and do things at the same time?
I don't think so. I mean,
then what does
why
that game
would that
look
not
like?
be something that they just have happen at launch co-op?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? What is? I don't know. Like, I just don't see them doing like 6 months later. You can now play the game in co-op. I think it's got to be. I don't think it's versus though. So the only thing I can think of is like I feel like it's like a Ghost of Tsushima Legends thing.
Oh my god!
I think it's like you and your homies play these characters and you battle against characters. I think look at what's been going on. The Last of Us 2. They did the remake, remaster, whatever the hell, and then they had like a roguelike mode in there. So it's like kind of like this endless sort of thing. Mm-hmm. God of War just added that Valhalla DLC to Ragnarok. And I feel like that just makes a lot of sense to do that kind of formula here with this, where it's like you go in and maybe it's like a wave-based thing, depending on mode to mode. A wave-based thing like Legends has, or just like here's a chunk of New York and here's like randomly generated enemies and a boss fight or something like that. I feel like that's what it's got to be, because I don't see them doing competitive multiplayer, and I think co-op is I don't know, maybe for Spider-Man 2 they could do that, like 6 months later here's this co-op DLC. But then I think looking at the rest of this roadmap where there's like a game and then the online game then the online, I don't think they would continuously do that. I think it's got to be something a little bit more substantial, not necessarily live service, but something that's more live servicey than just co-op.
Yeah. The Ghost of Tsushima pitch, that's a dream, which, in the new year.
Which that was so fucking successful. That was so good, and it was a huge surprise too, right? I'm trying to
It
remember.
was.
It
They
was
just
announced like
dropped
either
it.
shortly after the game launched or like right before it launched. Like, hey, later on we're doing this multiplayer.
I think
thing.
it was
Which
after.
way was it?
I
think
don't
it was
think
like a
was
month after,
known.
right?
Yeah, and then
And
it
then it
dropped.
came out like 3 or 4 months afterwards.
Yeah, it wasn't that far. And
Yeah.
in the new year, we should get back in there.
We really
I'd be
should.
down.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, that game is
those
so
were
good.
good
Yeah.
times. Yeah, so that'd be perfect. That would be all I need. I'd love it. Give
And
some
that makes
option
sense
to
as,
swing
like-
around the city together too. You know.
And that's small enough scale where for Spider-Man 2, like you straight up just do it 2-player. Like it's just you,
Yeah.
like someone plays Peter, another player as Miles, and then obviously like years down the road we get to X-Men and Wolverine and stuff. That's where you could break it out to like the classic 4-player thing, and then who knows, maybe even more X-Men in the future. You get 8 X-Men, get 7 of your closest friends, and get the whole roster going.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, so that's the roadmap where it's supposedly, which is strange. It's Spider-Man multiplayer, Venom, Wolverine, which is rumored to be 2026. So we gotta buckle
Ways
up,
to go.
everybody. We got a ways to go, and that's just like the hopeful date. And then there was a Wolverine online, which was odd. And then the one that to me is, I don't want to get like Suicide Squad vibes because that was the jump from Batman to like Suicide Squad, but that was the rumored game in 2030. That's a long time away, but like that's what supposed was deal leaked, that they did show that they signed a deal to have X-Men exclusive to Sony. X-Men characters can be in a situation where if they made like a Marvel Alliance 4, Wolverine could be in that, but no one can go make, hey, Xbox can't make the Storm game. But that's the idea that Insomniac's gonna be making an X-Men game, which I think is fucking crazy in my opinion. Like I did not have that on my bingo card, and I still I would not believe it. But the fact that obviously these leaks are like legit, I'm mind blown by that's even a concept they're thinking about, because that's something completely different for them. Like a team-based game, like I don't know what it would be. I don't know what it would be. That's probably a whole side quest episode in itself that maybe we could do one day. Like what would we build an X-Men game to be like?
I mean, I was gonna do
Legends.
when I thought X-Men 97 was coming out in January. That was a cast I had put in our calendar. Peek behind the curtain here. That we're still gonna do it, even if there's this exclusive.
Oh, absolutely.
We're still gonna do a fictional X-Men Legends 3 roster, but now we also have to do this because that would obviously be a very different type of roster than something like X-Men Legends would have. So first of all, that's a bummer. If like let's say X-Men Legends was maybe in the works, but then it got I don't think that's actually the case, but if it was, and then it got kind of killed because of this exclusivity thing. But I mean, I guess Sony could still make X-Men Legends, but now we're getting beside the point. But yeah, it is crazy. But I also feel like they just seem to be really building that, like the infrastructure for that, right? Like Spider-Man, they make this one game in 2018, and they can really just iterate and keep building off of it, build off that same New York, and get Miles Morales out there as a separate game. Get Spider-Man 2 where you have 2 playable characters, or I guess 3, and then boom, you have the Venom thing. It's like they are just ramping themselves up for that so much, and it feels like, well, we already know, I guess, because this Jean Grey stuff, like that's of course part of like the Wolverine game. It's not part of the X-Men game because the X-Men game is so far away. So like they're already laying the framework for that down, because that's not just like Jean taking pictures with a camera like MJ. Like that's a full-on move set, and maybe it's not quite as RPG'd out as Wolverine's, like getting 5% more damage on his claws or something like that. But it's obviously in there, and that makes you wonder what other characters could be in that game. Now, hopefully, I think Wolverine, keep it somewhat contained, of course, and it is called Wolverine. Why would they not just call it X-Men if it was more than that? But yeah, man, like it seems like they are laying down the framework for that, especially if it's like Wolverine drops. You got the online thing come out later. Maybe you have 1 or 2 more playable characters in there, and then you're like only 1 or 2 away from an X-Men roster at that point. Like it makes so much sense. And I don't know. Also on this is like Ratchet and Clank. I don't think you guys are gonna have time for that. But then again, they already did in this new gen. Like from 2018 to 2020 with Miles Morales to Ratchet and Clank 2021, 2023 Spider-Man 2. Like Insomniac's output is already insane, but
I'm just so curious. Like, would you, with an X-Men, like would you have, how many members would you have? Like, I feel like it'd be relatively small, but I just feel like it's different with Spider-Man because it's like it's Miles and Peter. That's 2, and even Venom. It's just like 1 sequence in the game, and then you go back. Like, would the game work like that too, where it's let's say it's Storm, Jean, Scott, and Wolverine, and then the game is okay. This is a Jean mission. This is a Scott mission. You can go back and forth. Would that be the way? Even with Wolverine, it doesn't sound like it's working the same way, right? Where Spider-Man's an open world game, Wolverine sounds like it's more God of War linear. So I guess it might just be a new challenge for them, which I'm always down. I just, like I said, the Suicide Squad has scared me because that was like I saw a studio be doing great solo player games and then go to, not that it has to be multiplayer, but that's what they kind of did, and it was, you know, I don't think it's working out for them.
I mean,
so
that's right. I think there's maybe just a different approach that Insomniac's taking here, where first of all, like, they've spent now 3 Spider-Man games to figure out what Spider-Man is as a gameplay system before they're jumping into this online thing. So when they're jumping into Wolverine, that feels like, okay, from Wolverine to Wolverine Online, like that feels like a much shorter leap. But I don't know. I feel like they are taking a better approach to it by like kind of slowly building up into these things and are establishing this is what Wolverine is as a game, and then we're going to add online afterwards. I feel like that's a better approach to me than the Marvel's Avengers approach or the Suicide Squad approach, which is like built from the ground up as a live service game. This
fair.
does not seem like that. It seems like, how can we take these great action adventure games that people already love, and how can we let people play together with their friends, because that is such a big part of the superhero fantasy as a thing. So it seems like that was the second step after making a really solid game and foundation to build upon. So to me, it seems like a much better approach. Now there's also that side of it where Sony has like really been trying to double down on live service things, but then they also have canceled a bunch of them, including last, which just happened. So, and then like Jim Ryan's leaving PlayStation soon, so who knows? Maybe that whole live service thing pivot.
Now.
Yeah, like that could take a huge pivot here sooner rather than later. And
which
I feel
think
like
is smart, because I feel like we say with Avengers and Suicide Squad that maybe it was just too late before they could really like. It is what it is.
And with the timing of how all this stuff has worked, Insomniac and Sony have both, they got a lot of insight from what Marvel's Avengers was and how poorly that was executed, even though those character movesets were fantastic, right? Like that's not really what the issue was there. And so I feel like they're taking it the right approach here. And so I think it helps that they've had that lesson. Suicide Squad, you might look at the calendar and think, oh, they had Marvel's Avengers to learn from. They have, in hindsight, they can maybe modify some things, but still that game is being developed for a fucking decade at this point. Like they didn't,
far along.
It was a different world when that game started development than from when Wolverine, I guess Spider-Man 2, Wolverine Online, and then X-Men Online, which hasn't even started yet. But I think all these things, I guess I have so much faith in Insomniac to nail it. And to me, they're not taking huge leaps and swings, pun intended on swings. They're just taking like one step at a time. And I think they're like, because of that, they're going to pace themselves well into what could be a very successful online. And I don't know, even if it is just fucking Legends, I'm happy with that. Ghost of Tsushima Legends, to be clear, not X-Men Legends.
They're doing a beat down arcade type game, which I'd love to see.
With Wolverine and X-Men and all that, like that whole roguelike setup of just facing random enemies like that, you got the danger room, like that just creates that. You can have any situation where you could bring in whatever villain who even don't even make sense in real life, but because they're in the danger room and they're not real, it like that works. So you could just have crazy combinations going against each other. That just seems like too easy to do it that way.
I hope it all happens, because I can't wait. 7 years from now, we're sitting down talking about a X-Men game. That's those the days we dreamed for. A nice big huge AAA studio doing an X-Men game. And Blade happened and stuff. So. You got anything to add on the overall? I have just a few character lineup I want to go down, but anything overall on some of these things out there?
Let's see here.
Of course, I forgot to mention Spider-Man 3 is in the game plan too, but I think we all kind of know that's a no given, no duh. So
which will be the 5th Spider-Man game they make at that point.
Yeah,
kind of, or even 6th if you count online as a separate thing. That's kind of crazy how much they're doing that, but. No, I mean, I feel like Gambit has a good chance being on that X-Men game. I just feel like he makes sense for roster-wise. Because some characters, like even Cyclops, like, I don't know, do you really like, is Cyclops fun?
What are you trying to say? Do you really want to play a Cyclops, what you're saying?
I play Cyclops, but he's maybe the not bottom of the barrel, but I just feel like Gambit's like, that's a fun, like Storm, Gambit, those are fun characters.
That's why I want to do a cast, because I just I can't wrap my brain around Insomniac. Like, just who do you pick and what do you limit it to? Because to me, when you say X-Men, like I said, like it being even 3 characters, that's just straight. Like to me, it has to be a beefy roster. Not beefy, but like I think to me 5 is usually the minimum of X-Men. And
True, I think you can get away with Xavier and Beast are in the game, but
Yeah.
they're not playable or something, and
Welcome
so you
back.
can still have a ton of stuff with them, and so it still feels like an X-Men game because you're hanging out
True.
the X-Mansion, all these characters are there, and maybe like Jubilee's there, but she's just like taking classes. She's not allowed to go on like battles yet. You get like set
the
up some of
toilet's
these.
clogged again.
Yeah, it's just unclogging that toilet.
That's your
so.
mini mission as MJ, but it's Jubilee. Like,
Mhm.
Beast. Yeah. One day we'll talk about it.
I was gonna say something else, but yeah, there's definitely a lot more juice to be squeezed on that.
I'm with
topic,
you
for
on
sure.
Gambit though. By the way, yeah, Gambit. He's one of my favorite characters. He didn't make it to Ultimate Alliance 3, but
Maybe
Ultimate
Deadpool.
Alliance 2,
Maybe Deadpool they do, but anyway, we should save this for.
He got his own. Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
That's all.
Okay, so some of these characters that came out, Leech is supposedly gonna be in this game, so that's a fun. Leech, remember he's in the
I know
sewers.
Leech, yeah.
You got I'll skip like the bartender and stuff.
Leech
like
to me feels like a kind of equivalent to like Mr. Negative in the way, like I guess Leech is more known than Mr. Negative, but the way that was like, oh, that was a huge character in Spider-Man 2018. Everyone's like, who's this guy? I feel like Leech could kind of be like that. I don't know. Not that he would be the main villain. I'm not saying that.
No, I think the description is a young mutant that Jean's taking care of. So I think he's a very like new.
He's not a villain.
He's
not even a villain. I don't know why I assumed he'd be a villain.
The poor guy dying on Christmas. Like, he must be the villain. I think he's going to be like a new X-Men recruit, or maybe someone Logan finds along the way and drops him off the mansion. One that was getting people excited, Mystique, who is supposedly popping off, so it's always good when she's there. She's a trickster.
You got to have Mystique, because you can do so many fun plot twists with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sabretooth, not a big,
of course,
like you got to have him there, right? We talked about Jean Grey. Troy Baker is supposedly playing Mr. Sinister, which I think is a very interesting. There is plot points about what they're going to have this character do already. I'm not going to read them out. It's a fucking wild take. I'll say that for what they're planning on making him related to the story, but I could see him being the overall villain. Are you trying to look what's out there?
No, I thought of a thing that I mentioned.
Okay.
The thing that I was trying to think of earlier, I remembered, so I wrote it down so I don't forget it.
Okay. I could see him being like the overall man behind the curtain villain, like all the stuff's happening, who's behind it, Mr. Sinister.
And I think Troy Baker, that's great casting. In my
I
opinion.
do too. I think that's a good one. One that Taylor's pretty excited about, and I am too. Sasquatch is supposedly in this game, so maybe we'll get some Alpha Flight connections and stuff like that. I'd love to. I don't know if you'll fight them all, but just to see some of them, that'd be great. Another, I think, kind of no-duh, Lady Deathstrike, someone tied to Wolverine. And this one could have been a no-duh, but like, I don't care. I'm very excited. There's a game, Wolverine Revenge. It was based on X2. It really wasn't. It has nothing to do. It was a movie time game that had nothing to do with X2 other than the origin being the same. But they had an end credit scene in that game setting up the sequel, and I never got it. And it was Wolverine. The whole game he's trying to remember this character because he's going to go take revenge on him in the next game. And he wakes up and he goes, Omega Red. And he says, Omega Red, Omega Red. And never got that sequel. So I've been waiting for years to fight Omega Red. And Omega Red is supposedly in this game. There's concept art of him. He's looking fucking badass. But he's something that maybe could have been a no-duh. But that for me is just a hype pick of, that is a boss battle I'm looking very forward to. That could be a very fun, just all those tentacles, the metal, like you could have a real good time with that. So for me, some of these are obvious, but like I feel like it's kind of like what we're talking about with the Death Stranding movie, where if let's say they feel that they can only make one Wolverine game, they're hitting the right stuff. Deathstrike, Sabretooth, Omega Red, like maybe there's even a flashback mission of you and X-Force. I don't know, but I think the lineup is like perfect.
With the whoa, my light just glitched out. With some of the concept art that you've seen here, because with 2018, and I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, so I haven't seen all these character designs in detail. But they obviously took a very like Robotronic kind of design for a lot of these characters. Like rather than being, I guess, supernatural, it was like they just had big robot scorpion legs, and that's what made. And we didn't necessarily love the art style of some of those things. How do you feel about the art direction they've gone for? Like, I mean, you mentioned like Omega Red. So is it because they stuck to more comic accurate stuff, or are they doing a different Insomniac spin on it, but it's still a look that you're enjoying?
There's a little bit of a spin. Like I think Omega Red, they've made like a little bit kind of smaller, like not as big as opposing, but he has like a tentacle. He has the metal going on. Raven has like the whole like white suit and everything like that.
With the skulls, you see the skull,
No,
the skull belt.
there is. It's very minor. It just looks like it's just a skull like imprinted. It's not the actual skull. But other than the face, Mr. Sinister looks like he would look like in the animated series. The
I love
face
that.
they don't have.
It's
with
Troy
the
Baker's face.
It is. In the concept art, it is. So it doesn't
Okay,
have like the
nice.
weird slit eyes and the teeth, which I'm fine if they want to change that. But even the look, Sabretooth, it's funny, like he looks the same, but then his hair is like really curly and looks like it's been like he got some work done on it. So it looks like they're sticking more to what the designs closer to the comics. So it's not like a Sabretooth who has like a big metal suit and stuff. It looks like he's just like a man Sabretooth, you know, like something's wrong with him. He's hairy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Superman Mike was saying Rift Apart was linear. They know how to do it for Wolverine, which made me think of, man, I feel like Nightcrawler with the teleporting around and the Rift Apart e-ness of that. Or, you know, get Blink in there if you want the more low-key pick. That would be sick. I think actually Nightcrawler with the PS5 tech, that could be a thing where it, you know, the head honchos over at Sony are like, you gotta do Nightcrawler because it shows off how good our tech is over here, our load times.
Yeah, I never had any down Wolverine. For me, it's the X-Men thing of how do you get that to be a team game and make it linear, but maybe like Ratchet and Clank, you can play as multiple characters and stuff. I'll have to wait till I see how they do it, but...
Yeah, and I think, because I was looking up like what multiplayer stuff has Insomniac done before, and I think the only thing they have done multiplayer was some Ratchet and Clank stuff, and I think that was just like in the era where like every game had a competitive multiplayer
You have to
mode.
have those, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was like a fully dedicated multiplayer Ratchet and Clank. Two other questions that I remembered here.
Perfect.
One is like, because I don't know, I guess the X Mansion's like near or like in New York to some extent. Is this game seem like it's in? Is it like in Spider-Man's New York, or what's the setting from the leak stuff you've seen?
I think you could start. Well, look, I think it's like a globetrotter. It looks like, because some people have compared
Really?
to Uncharted. Yeah, because there's one section where he looks like Wolverine's in a suit, so it looks like
He's probably got to be in Japan at some point, maybe, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I think it'd be a game where it's like, oh, we gotta go to Australia, and then again the
Australia. He's gonna go there.
Okay, mate. So, like Sabretooth. Yeah, I think it'll be a game
Mr.
that maybe
Sinister is just Australian for some reason.
Troy, we really want you to try something out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be him all over the world in the Blackbird there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Troy Baker was the villain in Miles Morales. I just remembered. You think they would get him again?
Was he?
Yeah, I forget the name of the character because that character was really boring. But
And what do you mean? Do you think they'd get him again?
Like, I don't know, because if there's like some connective, like world connectivity between these things, like, I don't know, obviously it's a voice actor and it's Troy Baker and he can do things with his voice, but would they do that? I guess they could.
I think Troy Baker's just a go-to guy. I think just like people like him. I got a question just off the top. I don't think it would work. Do you? No, I don't think so. But just for shits and giggles, like the animated series, do you think there's any chance that X-Men game that's just a default title and one of those characters is a Spider-Man in there, just like the animated series where you got Spider-Man a part of the X-Men for like a game? Because those characters made already. I know it's not the swinging, and I don't think it would happen, but because I was just trying to think about their Avengers, and I love that 90s animated show when Spider-Man teams with the Avengers. You know.
I would say no, but the existence of the online stuff makes me say yes. Why not? Why not do that? Why not just have even Spider-Man, just throw him in there as a villain in this Danger Room like Wolverine online mode?
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Why not? You already got that stuff. Throw whoever. Throw Scorpion in there, Electro, like I don't know, just anyone
Uncle
that they've built get Ben in there, like anyone they've built assets for. Why not just throw them in that crazy mode? Like that would be so cool because man, I don't know if I have this screenshot. It's somewhere in our Discord, which is a great place to go, by the way. Shouts to us,
absolutely,
all that stuff. But yeah, on that multiplayer ambitions thing, there was like, okay, multiplayer architecture, like they're working on that up until 2024. And then they call it multiplayer 1.0 is in 2024 with Spider-Man 2. And then in 2026 is when the Wolverine Online launches, and they call that multiplayer 2.0. And then when we get to 2028, those two things merge, and it's multiplayer 3.0, and it's X-Men Online.
Really?
So that makes me think it could be some sort of like big connective thing. You know, obviously there's some weirdness with X-Men and
too good to be true.
Spider-Man, but I don't know. That's how they wrote on their infographic. All this is leaked stuff, but yeah.
And it's leaked stuff too, right? Could be stuff that they are planning. Like Look at what happened last week. Last of Us was having a multiplayer live service game and then gone just like that. Obviously there's build to, but still, like this could be something that they tinker with, and then when they get closer, go, you know what? Let's just stick to the solo games. Like this is not worth it at the end of the day. We don't know when this information was taken, right? Like you said, the pivot happened. This could all be information that was before that, and now Sony could have said, that stuff you're working on, kill it. We don't want to do it, right? But that could
Ratchet
happen.
and Clank only.
No. I meant just the multiplayer aspect, right? Like they could say, don't do any of that. We don't actually want to move that around anymore.
if Spider-Man 2 is supposed to come out, and you're right. Like this document could have been leaked from 7 years ago or something, or like that's when it could have been made. Who knows? But I mean, I guess the release dates of some of these newer things wouldn't necessarily line up that way. What
I'm thinking like 6 months ago, right?
Spider-Man 2 Online's like certainly going to happen, right? At this point next year.
I didn't think so, but now I do. Like if you would have asked me pre-leak, I thought no. I didn't think that'd be a thing.
Yeah, so I feel like that's at the very least the testing ground. And if they do that and no one cares or makes them zero money or it's really buggy or something like that, then maybe they just say, drop it. We're just going to focus on Wolverine and Jean here. And then you can still do X-Men. You don't have to do that multiplayer 3.0.
Let's hope.
Integration down the line.
It'd be like Suicide Squad being like, in sometime in 2024, we're going to make an offline mode. At some point,
Yeah.
Don't do that. Whatever you do, Insomniac, Avengers, Suicide Squad, you've seen it happen. Just stay as far away from that, just,
Yeah, stay away. I think that's all for me on this stuff.
Are those the things you forgot that you wrote down, right?
Well, one of my questions was going to be just based on the footage, like, and Wolverine moving around because of how much like movement options there are in Spider-Man with those characters. And I was like, okay, is Wolverine gonna have some sort of equivalent? But it's like, I don't know, if the game's more linear and smaller scale, then I don't think you really need that,
He can wall climb and run.
Yeah.
He does a lot.
Like he
of
doesn't
that.
need he doesn't need like a motorbike. Like it's not like we're gonna be in that big of a
No,
map or anything.
There was no motorbike in the leaks. There wasn't that. It looked like he was doing a lot of grappling with that, like grapple, and then so.
One more spoiler question on Spider-Man 2. Is it like obvious who the villain could be of the third one? You don't have to say who it is, but is it fairly obvious who you think the villain would be of the third one at this point?
I think it's obvious for who Venom and third one is, yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, there's one very non-obvious thing that I'm excited for you to play, because there's an end credit. I was like, I was not expecting this. And it adds to, all I'll just say is, it adds to the Spider-Man Online stuff of having more options than just Peter and Miles and Venom. And it's not even a character that you would think. When you play it or hear it, you'd be like, really, that's a character they're bringing in. So there's some stuff cooking over there.
Interesting. Man, when Black Friday was happening, I was dangerously close to buying a PS5. I almost did it. The deals kind of sucked though. That's why I didn't end up doing it. It was just like you get Spider-Man for free essentially. I'm like, well, these games go on sale for like $10 in a few months, so like whatever. That's not a great deal. So I don't know if the Spider-Man 2 online thing is really really cool. Then maybe that would be the time. But I definitely thought like Wolverine will be the thing to push me over the edge. But if that isn't happening until 2026, then I have to imagine it'll be something else that gets me in the door first.
And do you think, because there was something that came a little bit beforehand, like there was like we had the leaks, and then there's a few things that came out, and the big thing happened. It kind of got overshadowed. But last week there was a rumor of them working on like a Spider-Verse type of game, meaning just like a game with multiple Spider people. Do you think that's just code for what the online might have been now instead? Like they're not making a Spider-Man and Friends. They're making, let's say, like you said, Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like you have your three types of samurai you could be, right? Or ninja. Same thing, like you could be Peter, you could be Miles, you could be Venom, you could be blank,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that as being an integration into, I guess, just either Spider-Man 3 or in online. I didn't see anything about that one, so I don't really have any other info on it. But yeah, I think that could be a good, because I don't know, once again, in the way that you want to like keep ratcheting up the intensity or intrigue of these things, like you got to think Spider-Man 3 is going to have some other newbie in there. So is that Gwen? Is that just a full-on multiversal thing where you can bring in a couple other characters, or even just slight variations of our characters now with like some like half step like moveset differences? They have some of these moves, some of the other ones, something like that.
Espubs, I see in the chat, he said, from what I've... Okay, good, he's going to let us know. He said, from what I've seen in the leaks, it seems that there are two different things. The Spider-Verse online game would be like a GTA Online level online. Okay, we'll wait for him to say the next one.
So that seems like the classic, like Sony looking for their live service game.
Like you create your own Spider-Person. Oh, fuck. That's man. The kids nowadays.
We have the Lego games for those, that kind of thing.
Yes, but the kids nowadays that they get their summer break and the games that they like, we had great games, but I'm just saying, like, imagine right now having those, like, you got 2.5 months
Morrowind,
off.
that was good. I
Yeah,
made my own Spider-Man
I know,
there.
but like you're telling me, if you're telling me, hey Travis, there's a game that you can be your own Spider person, create it, do whatever. You get 2 months off of school, have some fun. Like, fuck, man. Like, I'm
surprised you actually are that excited. I feel like you're not a very like
Yes.
big into the character creator. Like you like to play established, like especially for Marvel stuff.
I
mean,
like
I guess
if
you
I-
like the Hunter or Midnight Suns, but I feel like
Yeah.
generally you're not a big fan of that kind of thing.
But I like it because I already have the Spider-Man game. If it was, let's say we go back to 2018 and it's like, I want to take you on a roller coaster, and it's like, oh, what's happening? It's like, be your own Spider person. I'm like, fuck this, I don't want
And
this.
you like
But
try
now,
to name your character Peter, and it like blanks it out. Like you're not allowed to make them
Yeah.
Peter.
You can call him Parker Peter, but not Peter Parker. Like, if those like even right now, if they said we did Spider-Man 2, we're done with Spider-Man, I'd be completely fine. If those didn't exist, then I'd be bummed. But the fact that I got 2 great Peter Parker and Miles games, and even a third one, and then if I got the crate, that to me is something that's mind blowing. I did not see that. Like, that's something I would sink way too many hours into. You fight world bosses together, like a Venomized Sandman. Right, I saw that. There was a Venom that was like Godzilla size, and he was a villain, stuff like that. That's in the concept art villains, choose Spider-Man archetypes from. Really, that's what that was. Spider-Man, Gwen, 2009. Oh my God, yeah. There's just.
So I'm gonna be honest, not really speaking to me. I don't think that would be the Spider-Man game for me personally.
You'd
but I would
web
love
in though. You'd
I'd
come
love to
in
hear
for a
you
little
talk
bit.
about it.
No, you'd come in for a little bit. I know you would.
If it was free to play, sure, I'll download it. But I
Yeah,
didn't even play Spider-Man 2. What are you talking about? I'm not a diehard over here.
I know, but like I just feel like if there's like some sort of
what,
online
to create my own Spider-Man? I don't care about
Spider
that.
Boys.
That's not the thing that would sell me.
Oh, you don't.
Venom should be the thing that sells me over here.
Well, they're making a Venom game. You're gonna get that.
I can
you know?
replay as them in a game, but
You'll want
I'm
more
on the
though.
bench.
It's smart though. It's I don't know. You'd make some fun characters. You make your Falco Lombardi Spider-Man version.
Falco Lombardi. I don't know. About that.
Yeah, I don't know. But I would love that. At first, people would think it was canceled, but now it seems like it was never greenlight. It never has been greenlight. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Think we covered it all?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank God Kirkland and Taylor weren't here, because we're at 2:13 already, and it's just you and me. So there was lots to talk about. So I hope.
And we even cut topics too. There was
I cut. I'm glad I cut the trailers, which we'll probably talk about on the 2024 movie preview, because lots of them are coming out and look good. So yeah, I hope in the new year, when you're like, oh, where's the news? You get a nice juicy episode right here, almost 2.5 hours. And like I said, we'll be back. We'll be talking about other stuff, but usually January slows down. But yeah, look out for. There'll be an X-Men cast of some sort. We'll probably be talking. Well, maybe I'm not sure when Dylan's scheduling that, because X-Men 97. But you could double dip. You could do one for 97 and then one for this.
I mean, yeah. I mean, at the very least, I just want it to come out near 97, so
absolutely
we could record that whenever. Throw it up on Patreon like 3 months early. As we get
Exactly.
the X-Men animated. So yeah, who knows? It'll happen at some point.
Yeah, so January there'll be slower movies, games, stuff like that, but we got lots of good content. So if we don't talk to you again in a news sentiment, thank you very much. Have a good holidays. If you got some time off, spend time with your family, and if not, just go see Wonka. If you got no family, you don't care about Christmas on holiday, go see Wonka 25th. Maybe we'll bump into Taylor. Maybe we'll bump into Dylan. Let them know your thoughts on it. So till next time, and I'll be boring.
See ya.